Welcome to the Excellent Podcast. This is your cinematic host, STEFON WHITAKER, the head honcho of SW Films. And today we have another head honcho in here. We have the man, the myth, the legend, one of my really, really good fucking friends in this film industry, in life in general. And I'm super happy to have him on my podcast. He's ran an awesome and amazing production company, Static Heart, and has created a lot of amazing movies. I've actually had the blessing and the honor to be a part of his productions a few years back. And yeah, man, I'm super happy to just have him here to talk about all the amazing stuff, all the excellent stuff he's been doing. Mr. Taylor Fredricks here from Austin, Texas / Fort Wayne in the building. What's up, man? How you doing, bro?
What's up, dude? I'm doing fantastic. Dude, that was a solid intro, bro. You got me over here cheesing and shit. What the hell,
Yeah,
bro?
man. I'm trying to channel my inner Bruce Buffer, get everybody excited, and get ready for it, man. Because we got Taylor Fredericks here on the damn pod, man. I'm very happy that you're here. For everyone who's listening, of course, you guys know. Make sure to go follow, subscribe, all that to the Excellent Podcast, and of course, as you guys know, the SW Films website is now live, swfilmsproduction.com. Make sure to go check that out and go hook up with your boy. We can give you guys some cinematic excellence. So let's get into it, man. I really want to talk about, first off, how me and you met. And I'm sure that we both probably have different stories about it because it's been a little while now. First off, I want to say we met, maybe it was 2017, I think, either 2017 or 2018. I want to say it's 2017 though. Or actually, I want to say it's 2018 maybe.
Was
But
it? Well, I'm trying to think because I mean, like, what? Because 2017, end of 2017 is when I moved.
to
So
Austin?
yeah, dude, the end of
No,
October.
no,
Yeah,
really?
dude. So it might have been before that, bro. It might have been 2016, dude.
What
Yeah, bro. It's
well,
been a minute, bro. Time is is fuck that, dude. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Time has moved by really quick. I want to say, I guess it probably depends on, we worked on, well, first off, I had hopped on to a film of yours called And in a Moment. I
hmm
was a PA on that. I was on there for only maybe like a day or two because you guys had already finished up the film by that point. And I had known of like some of the other folks in our film family, like Austin Sarver, Adam Nelson, Bryce Fritzl, Adam King, all those guys. Shout out to all of them as well. Um, I may have heard about Austin Sarver first just because I think I remember saying something about, oh, there's not really a film community in Indiana. And then I remember me and him kind of got into, like, before we had ever met, kind of got into like this interesting little argument about that. I felt like,
See, I didn't even know that.
yeah. And then I think I don't know how I met you. Maybe I seen you on Facebook or something like that, or it was like a mutual situation. And I hopped on, and then ever since, man, we've been clicking. I've had Taylor on my album, No Sweat Pimp. I've been on a couple of different films with Taylor. He was there for my premiere, where I was there for a bunch of his premieres, a bunch of just good communication, good friendship, man. And I'm glad that however many years later, 2016, 2017, but definitely been like 5, 6, 7 years that
Mhm.
we've had this pleasure to, to be homies and just, be able to click up on different projects and stuff like that. Of course, we're on two different opposite parts of the country right now, but it's been so great just seeing all the stuff that you've been doing, man. I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks who may not know who you are. Of course, people, if you guys go back into when the Excellent Podcast was a vlog page, I did do an interview with Taylor way before, back when I had the whole interviewing me segments. So
Mhm.
go check that out as well if you guys want to know what Taylor was like back then. And
Yeah, exactly. Man, I don't even know who that person is at this point. Shit, bro. We're going through so many changes in life, you know?
so many changes. So I go ahead, man. Speak to your excellence. Let everyone know who Taylor Fredericks is.
Yeah, well, I'm a filmmaker, creative, musician, all the things that, essentially gets my juices a flowing. And as I've been lately here and living in Austin, a creative producer is a full-time job for this one company that I work for, but that's just the day gig, you know. Everything else I've been doing is filmmaking, acting, doing a lot of acting, and I founded Static Heart Productions back in what was it, like 2014 or something like that. Then we've created a crap ton of music videos, short films, had our films and many of our films in various film festivals, won various awards, and yeah, and looking forward to the stuff we got coming up this year. So
Hell yeah, man. Talk that shit. Talk that excellent shit. I love it, bro. All right, man. Well, with all that, bro, because there's so much. You talked about a lot of the stuff that you've done, a lot of the stuff that you do. Um, I just want you to go into talking about specifically like what got you into filmmaking and how did you start creating? Like what was that process like for you in the beginning once it was time for you to, I guess, take it serious or at least be delved into just the interest of it? What was that for you?
yeah, man. I mean, like originally was a musician starting out, been doing that since I was 9 years old. That was the main passion, and I wanted to be a rock star like every kid in the music scene, you know. And then
Mhm.
it got to a certain point where having multiple projects, multiple albums, and all that good stuff, it got to a certain point I got burnt out on it, and I started growing a love for filmmaking and just creating content back in high school. Little films class that we had and creating goofy, stupid ass shit, really putting into what I love about when I loved was growing up was, you know, the SNL, the Sandler, Chris Farley, all that shit that I
Mhm.
grew up on all that shit. So comedy for me was it was easy for me, it seemed like. And so that was the
Yeah.
first thing I really got my the juices flowing for that because that's what it all came from in high school. And then from then on, it got to a certain point where I had a couple different bands and I was like, you know what, this ain't scratching that itch anymore, that creative itch.
Yeah.
And I decided this is it. I wanted to move on. I wanted to pursue filmmaking full time when it was when it's essentially a plan B option. Went to college for a couple of years, dropped the fuck out of there, and started my own production company, Static Art Productions, and have not looked back since. And just consistently and constantly creating shit.
Man, that's awesome, bro. Um, and definitely, it's because I've heard you tell the story before. I've heard you, talk about obviously how music is what got you in there and everything like that. And I know we'll probably delve into it a little bit more later on the list, but how you kind of gotten a little bit back into music, maybe, or just been doing it more frequently than you have in the last few years or so. Um, I guess with you creating movies and everything like that and creating Static Heart, like what inspired you, what filmmakers, what films, what things inspired you to want to actually, I guess, make that a plan B or have an interest in it, or it specifically push you to actually start creating your own movies and stuff like that?
You know, honestly, and I actually just rewatched this recently. The one film that really got me to think, you know what, I can do this. I don't, and it made me start Static Heart was the film You're Next, actually.
Yeah. I know you
And
love that
that,
one. Yeah.
you know, like,
Shout
and you
out
know,
to
Adam
Adam Wingard,
Wingard.
full
Yeah,
sale
boy.
representative.
Yeah, Dude, like that was the one film for me. I was like, you know, this is such a cool concept and a different take on a slasher flick. And I was like, I just had like this inspirational moment after I first watched that. I was like, you know, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
started doing it. It was I didn't really second guess it, and I jumped right into it. And I remember shooting my first music video. I think it's still on the YouTube page. Unfortunately, I might need to take that off. But but like that was like a dark ass music video right out the gate. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, especially, you know, I don't know how, what, 8 years ago at this point. And
Yeah.
it was, dude, I don't know, man. So then from then on, once I wanted to started creating my own films, of course, you know, David Fincher is a huge inspiration of mine. Which, you know, I think he's got a new one coming out soon, right?
Yeah, I think
Hopefully. Jesus
so.
Christ,
I
dude.
know it feels like it's been a while, right? He had a TV show that he was doing
It
for a
was
little
the
bit,
Mine
right?
Hunter. Mine Hunter.
Mindhunter. And
Yeah, and
then
then they
I
canceled
think there
that.
was something else. I think there was
It
another
was
TV show that
the Love and Robots or some shit. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah,
Um,
but a movie, we definitely need a new movie.
that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it was that, you know, Fincher was a huge part of that. And then I guess going through the years, which, you know, you mentioned and in a moment, once I shot that film and created that film, it was more so Blue Valentine was the biggest inspiration for that one. And
Yep.
still love that movie. Still one of my favorite movies. And people are like, why is that your favorite movie? I was like, yo, it's a great movie, but it's so sad. I was like, exactly. That's exactly why
Right.
I like it, because it's real. It's not sugarcoating shit. It's like, hey, here's,
Hmm.
it made me relate to what an actual relationship was like. And I was like, I can feel for this couple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it totally changed my whole dynamic from starting off into like doing this, like a lot of this horror style thriller stuff, to really start in finding a love for indie dramas, man. And that became still one of my favorite movie genres, and
Hmm.
um cannot get enough of them, honestly. And then of course,
Yeah.
comedy has always been, the home base for me, and I always have fun with that. And yeah, so, and
Hmm.
especially since the Jimmy Arcurio shit, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
always been a forefront in my life, is the comedy, because we all need to have a laugh every now and then.
For sure. Absolutely. I love it. There's a lot that you mentioned there, like in terms of your own stuff, but also just in general, like, the types of films that we all love and the genres that we love. I know for myself too, indie drama kind of became my favorite for a while. I haven't delved at like recently I haven't delved into any indie dramas that have caught my attention all that much. This year alone, I feel like there hasn't been any movie that has caught my attention too much. Like there was what the hell did I see recently? I seen the Mario movie, which I really liked actually. I
It
think
was
that was
fun.
probably
It
it
was
was
fun.
fun.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was fun. It was probably my favorite I think I've seen this year, if I'm being honest. But I
Mm.
feel like that's gonna change after Bo's Afraid because I'm super excited for
Dude, I'm
fucking
seeing that on Sunday, bro.
bro.
I'm seeing
Like
that
I
on
can't
Sunday.
wait. I can't wait.
I'm
And I'm also
excited.
seeing Evil Dead. I might see Evil Dead tonight
Yep.
or tomorrow, but I'm
I
hoping
got
that's
tickets for
good.
Evil Dead. I'm seeing that on next Tuesday. So hell yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about it, dude.
I'm hoping those are good movies, because I mean, like, there was one movie I think I've mentioned it on this pod before, but I've mentioned it to folks outside of it. Like one movie that I was so excited about, but I thought was just complete trash was this movie called 65 with Adam Driver.
Oh yeah, the freaking prehistoric
Oh
future movie.
man.
Dude, I didn't even bother that, man. I remember I first watched the trailer for it, not knowing what the hell was going on. I'm watching the trailer for it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like Adam Driver. I'm sitting there watching it. I was like, oh, this is future. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I can fuck with a sci-fi flick. And then all of a sudden, they're like, the monster's there, and they built it up, and it's
Bro,
the
it sucks.
T-Rex. And I'm like,
Bro, it's
really?
bad.
Dude, I've like literally my whole excitement for the buildup. I was like, dude,
Yeah, I
Shrek.
mean, it's bad. Like, here's the thing, like it's the problem with it is it feels like a movie that should have and could have came out in like the early 2000s. Like that's what it felt like, and
Mm,
like the premise of it actually like pretty interesting if they would have done it right. The fact of like it's almost like a prehistoric Last of Us in a way, right? It's
mm.
like you find this girl, her parents are not there, all that kind of stuff. You got to try to lead her to a spot, and you're quote unquote on Earth, 60 some million years ago before it's inhabited. It's just a shitty movie though. It did not have any good tension. Adam Driver was cool in it, right? But like no good. There was not a lot of good tension. It's I'm big on those types of movies, like creature features, the dinosaur type shit.
Yeah, I know you
Shit is
are.
like my favorite. Obviously, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. There's a Jaws poster behind me. Like I love movies like that, but that movie just failed to do anything. But for
Dude,
you though,
I recently watched Air.
oh yeah, my girlfriend watched that and she said it was good. But I mean, and I love basketball, Michael Jordan, but honestly, that's a movie that I think I might skip. To be
Dude,
honest,
it's good, man. I had a
it
real
was
fucking
good.
good time with it. Oh yeah, man. The
Yeah,
Boston brothers, the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon,
Matt Damon, and they're great. They're honestly a great pair. I think that's probably the only thing that really interested me about it. Besides, of course, Michael Jordan and Violet Davis is up in there, and I don't know
hmm
whoever plays Michael Jordan, but yeah, I
Like
don't know.
they don't even show his face, dude. They made
Uh,
sure not to show his face. It's like you see the back of his head the whole time.
wow,
Yeah.
that's smart. I guess maybe Michael Jordan was
hmm
like, man, don't try
Well,
to
that's
get
the
no
thing,
one to
is I
play
think
me.
I think they had an interview with Ben Affleck or Matt. I think it might have been Matt Damon, one of the two. They were talking and they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to show the face of Michael Jordan just because they wanted to." Essentially it was about Michael Jordan, but it's like, hey, we're not going to try and like essentially, especially for the actor, where he's going to
Hmm.
be like, "Oh, he doesn't even look like anything like Michael Jordan," or there's going to be all
Yeah,
this different talk, and it's like, yo, you're taking away from the actual,
the
the
story,
genuineness of the film and what the film's about. Like,
right. It's more about Nike than anything.
yeah, straight up. Straight up.
Shit. Shit, man. But okay, so all the different indie movies that you mentioned and just how that kind of help build and create your what you do with Static Hearts and the movies that you've written and directed and everything like that now. And then you mentioned comedies too. I remember we worked on Rentals.
Hmm.
Uh when that was like 20, was that 2017 or 2018?
I think it might have been 2018. Or
Yeah.
2017, 2018. I think we shot it in 2017, 20. No, it might have been 2017 because I remember we
Yeah.
shot it and released it before I moved here. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I remember I worked on that with y'all. It was a late night shoot in this video store. That was a fun shoot, and and it came out to be a good movie. I'm gonna make sure to link all the stuff down below for people who are watching on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you at. But yeah, man, talking with Static Heart, right, and just how that became to be your production company. Take me through the process of how that actually got created. What is the meaning behind Static Heart Productions? That's such a very that's a very specific one of those names that when you hear it, you know what it is and you know who it is. So like what was that process like creating Static Heart Productions?
I don't know, man. Like I'm a huge fan of hearts. I mean, I have various heart tattoos on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. I mean, it symbolizes life. And static is more so you can take it multiple ways. You can take static as like static electricity, it's bringing it to life, or you can take static as being complacent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're bringing life to something that's complacent, you're giving it life, you're giving it breath. And it's Static Heart was always one that always stuck with me. And no matter what, no matter, I think there might have been a couple points where in my life where I'm like, what if I change it? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't, there's no way I can change it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just become just a vital part of me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, it just, something about hearts and just everything about it and the meaning behind it. And I don't know, man, it just always stuck with me. And it seemed like it was a fitting name for a production company.
Yeah.
And boom, here we are.
That's what's up. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the names and stuff like I just like SW Films was just very a very
How did you come up with that?
man, I it's crazy. I thought to myself, all right, I need a very good name. How about Star Wild Films? And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was playing. Yeah, no, just something simple, and I think I've been able to make it work. I love my logo. Obviously, it has a lot of flares of think the one of the prop one a franchise that helped kind of get me into film and stuff like that.
Gojira.
Gojira. Matter of fact, have you seen the teaser for the new Godzilla and Kong movie that they put out? That Adam
Nah,
Wingard is
dude, I didn't even. I
directing.
don't. Oh shit! It's about this thunderstorm over here. Nah, dude, I
Uh,
haven't.
it's an interesting teaser. It's an interesting teaser. It shows like it doesn't show who the next villain could be in this movie, but it
Hmm.
has like a silhouette of him and it has like these skulls of Godzilla and Kong, and it's very interesting.
Hmm.
It does have me. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I love Godzilla versus Kong. I would almost argue to say it's maybe my favorite so far out of all the MonsterVerse movies, just because I love that Godzilla whooped Kong's fucking ass.
And
Um,
Wingard's doing the second one, right?
Yep. He did,
That.
yeah. Like he directed it so fucking I loved the Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought it was amazing. One of my favorite movies of I forget when that came out, 2021 or something like that. But yeah, he's directing the second one and the teaser looks interesting. It looks like they're gonna do something a little bit different instead of bringing in one of Godzilla's main villains, that he's always had in the
Hmm.
franchise. So it looks like they might delve more into that whole ancient ancient rivalry that they had in the first movie. So that'll
Okay.
be cool. But okay, with Static Heart too. Yeah. So um what has been like your biggest the biggest moment that you've kind of created and built up with Static Heart? Because you said you started in 2014. I remember in 2014 I was just graduating from high school, and obviously I was getting ready to go to Full Sail and stuff like that. And in my mind, I knew I was writing a lot of things that I knew that was going to become SW Films, but of course I didn't. I had to go through school and all that shit first. With you starting in 2014, just with all the moments that you've done, you've created so many different films under Static Heart so far. But what has been a moment that has stuck out to you and still always sticks out to you with your production company?
I mean, I guess there. I mean, there's one film that I think I hold close to my heart. And it's probably The Realist.
Mm.
And the more times I haven't seen it in so long, I probably will, I actually posted something on my Instagram not too long ago about it. And I'm like, God, this shit's so cheesy. But it was such a it was such a pivotal film just because it was like that's when, I got together with Austin and Adam with Undefined, and that's when that was the first film that was like the big collab. And then from then on it kind of took off and we created all the other films after it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an interesting shoot because we literally went all out with it. It's a crime thriller, very heavily inspired by Seven, and
Mm-hmm.
we literally took a all state office that we were able to use and transformed it into a police station with a decal on the wall and the maps and all that
Yeah.
shit. Is like such a looking back at that, I'm like, man, we put so much effort into that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like, why you wouldn't put so much effort into something like that? But it's like it made the aesthetic that much more interesting, and it made
Yeah.
it seem like, okay, it never seemed like it went to waste, right? It never seemed
Yeah.
like we're doing all this for nothing. Like, oh, we're only going to be shooting this in here for like a couple scenes or whatever. But it's like, no, it played such a pivotal point in not only the production value, but just like the atmosphere of all the creators and the filmmakers and actors that we had on set. Like it was just
Yeah.
such a big crew. We had probably on set on each day we had probably about like 20 to 25 people with the
Wow.
cast and the crew.
And
Yeah,
this was
like
a short film, right?
this was a short film, and I think I
Yeah.
don't even, what is it, maybe a half hour long.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd been in a few different festivals and didn't win anything, but it was
Mm-hmm.
like that was such a pivotal thing because that also sparked it being into Riverbend Film Festival in Goshen. And I remember it was me, King, Nelson, and Sarver. We all ended up going to Riverbend for that weekend, and I think it was, what was it? It was it was Transitive and the Realist were both in
Mm-hmm.
there, which was Undefined's baby Transitive
Yeah.
Sarver's film. And I remember we went there that whole weekend. We stayed the whole weekend, and that was also the same weekend Beth Grant was there. And if people don't know who Beth Grant is, she's the one that's in Donnie Darko. But sometimes I doubt your commitment to sparkle motion. She's Dwight Schrute's babysitter,
Yeah.
like she's in the
Classic.
Mindy Project and all, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like she's an amazing character actress. And she was one of the guest speakers of that festival. And I remember we actually became really good friends with her at that festival. We were pretty much hanging out with her the whole time.
Yeah.
And she ended up like, hey, we had an idea for, we had a script and we had a role for her, trying to
Mm-hmm.
get her onto this, and we told her about it, and she was like, yeah, email me the script. I was like, okay. She gave us her email, we emailed her the script, and then literally within a day she emailed us back. We weren't able to get
Yeah.
her for the role because it wasn't a role that she was really interested in, even though she liked the script. It just wasn't a role
Mm-hmm.
that she wanted to play. But then it became something that was like, man, it was also one of those moments where it's like, one of those kind of things where it's like, man, you ask yourself, oh, it's going to be so impossible to meet this certain celebrity or this person because of their status in,
Yeah.
the film
Mm-hmm.
world or whatever. And I mean, I'm sure I mean, it just as much as anybody, man. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
boom, like you're on fucking set with them, bro. Like, you know what
Goodness.
I'm saying? It's like one of
Yeah.
those things that you would never guess would ever happen, but it ends up
Mm-hmm.
happening. And it's like,
Right.
this is attainable, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
something that I can actually do and take something from it and then possibly make a good connection along the way.
Absolutely. And I think that'll definitely delve us into just a lot more stuff within like just kind of the community, kind of going that you've like, that we both like worked with and kind of gone through back home in Indiana, Fort Wayne, that whole kind of stuff. But I want to go back to just a little bit more on your movies and stuff. Like The Realist, I want to say I remember watching that it was definitely been a long time ago. Um, but I've watched obviously a few other all the other different movies that you've done, of course, and in a moment. Um, the horror film, which I cannot think of the name of right now,
In the dark.
In the dark. I want to say I want to say I watched In the Dark a little kind of recently because I've been going heavily writing this horror script recently. I'm 100 some pages deep. I've been writing the last week. And
Damn.
I was watching In the Dark. Mainly, I've been watching a whole bunch of scary shit recently, but I was watching In the Dark just to look at some inspiration, but also as more of inspiration of this other kind of project that is possibly wanting me to direct this writer's horror film. And they're like, it's long story short, it's this company from Florida that one of my homies had worked with, and the writers from out here, and is possibly going to work with them. But then I was looking at what that company does, and I don't want to give their name because I don't want to be super disrespectful, but their work is not what I like at all. And I don't, but I know that if it was to be there in Florida, I would definitely try to ring in Austin, because I know he's a big horror
Oh yeah,
fan.
yeah.
And
Oh
and
yeah,
honest,
he'd be the go-to for it. Yes,
honestly,
yeah,
and that would
absolutely.
literally be one of my things. I'm like, I would not direct that shit if I cannot have him as my DP, and if I cannot, I think usually the owner of that company likes to like mainly direct and like co-direct sometimes, but I think I'd want to just be a sole director and just have him, Austin, as the DP.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the fuck happens with that. That's something. But anyway, with your other productions and stuff, and in a moment, rentals, In the Dark, and pieces, uh what out of all of those different kinds of productions, like what memories stick out to you the most in each one of those? I know that And in a Moment really felt like within the time that I had came around with the film family, and all that kind of stuff, And in the Moment seemed like the biggest moment, it felt like, literally, in terms of just like the premiere. It really felt like a lot was given into the production of that film. Specifically, you acted in it as well as directing it. Or I think, did King direct it, or you guys both directed it, something like that, right?
No, King was that was around the time, and in a moment, was like in the beginning stages of King actually transitioning over to Static Art. So he
Okay,
was
yeah.
on set for some of it, but it was mostly me directing, and then I also had Sarver pretty much assistant direct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that movie felt like such a huge, huge moment for sure. And of course, all the other films. Like, what experiences, and I guess like things do you take away after like looking at all of your projects now? Like, what is it? How does it feel like when you go back and watch The Realist and go back and watch these films they used to do, and even old music videos and stuff? Like, what do you take from those now, where you're at in your career at the moment?
Um, I've definitely have grown since a lot of those projects, which is a great thing. There's a lot of people that are stuck in their own little box and think that, oh, this is where I'm at. Oh, I'm great where I'm at, and think that they don't need to grow. They don't need to become more knowledgeable or better themselves as a filmmaker or any
Mm-hmm.
creative for that matter. And that's unfortunate because there's always room for growth, and no matter how much you can always know more. That's the
Absolutely.
thing. And I think that's the biggest thing I take from all those projects, all the previous projects, even some of the stuff that I did with Jimmy, which was, more of the recent stuff that I've done. It's just growing from that, becoming a better writer. And then, is something that I've always done since day one is just be around people that are so much better than me at this shit than I am.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
all started with Nelson and Sarver, being around those guys who know their shit, and me learning a lot
Yeah.
from them, and then every other filmmaker along the way, Adam King, all them motherfuckers. I'm like, I want to be around the people that are gonna make me better.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I
Yeah.
want to I want to I want to feel challenged. I don't want to sit here and feel like, okay, and I don't get me wrong, I love helping anybody out that wants to be
Mm-hmm.
helped and that wants to learn and wants to grow. Like, I'm all about that. But I'm also in that same boat where I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be around people who
Yeah.
know so much more than I do, and so
Yeah.
much more that I can just take from them. And that's the beauty of it, bro. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can take from all of those projects is the growth
Yeah.
and what's worked, what hasn't, little tips and tricks to help for,
Mm-hmm.
to make for a smoother shoot along the way. And
Right.
yeah, dude, I mean, it's beautiful, bro.
Absolutely. And it's kind of been a little minute since I think there's been like a production like that where it's been like that amount of unity, because everybody's kind of all moved in their own different spots now. Of course, Austin's in Florida. I think Nelson is still in near Indianapolis, Kokomo. Bryce is still in Warsaw. King's still in Fort Wayne area. Of course, I'm in California. Kidway's in Colorado. Like, there's everybody has
Mm.
moved, very far, and that always kind of sucks because in terms of like community, the community tends not to stay in touch as often. I would say out of all the film family folks, it's probably been you and Kidway as the people I keep up with the most. I did speak to Austin a little bit kind of recently on Instagram. And I'll say what's up to Adam on Snapchat every now and again. And Bryce is out there fucking living it up with YouTube and
Yeah, dude.
stardom, and so I can't
Yeah.
even get a hold of him no more. You know what I mean? And then Adam's be on Instagram. King, he be on Instagram every now and again, but I need to say what's up to him too. So it's our whole group is kind of all placed in different spaces, and I hope eventually, people will start to gravitate again back to somewhere, whether it's Austin, Texas, or back in Fort Wayne or wherever, to just get up and do a project together.
And that's the thing though, bro. Like, even though that we all ended up moving to different locations of the country, but that's a great thing, man, because it's
Yeah.
like, hey,
Hmm.
everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's actually trying to become something better. And, like what I'm saying, growth. It's like you can be stuck, and everyone has their own stipulations on it and why they can't move. But that was a big
Hmm.
thing, man. I didn't want to be stuck in Fort Wayne. I didn't want to be sitting there thinking, what if, and that was going to be, I was working a 9 to 5 dead end factory job, and I was miserable, dude. I remember I was fat as fuck. I hated myself. And I like, dude, it was miserable. I was
Yeah.
miserable. I was in a long-term relationship, and a lot of my anger and frustration, definitely hurt the relationship. And it wasn't anything that she did. It was just I just hated where I was at. I felt like I hit a ceiling. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. And it's like, why the fuck am I still here? Why
Yeah.
am I sitting here feeling like this? Let me do something about it. And then it all
Yeah.
started with, changing, getting on a freaking diet, losing the weight, getting into a workout regimen, working with Shoemaker, and that dude kicked my ass into shape, and I can't thank him enough for that. And
Yeah.
actually,
Shout out him.
I
Yeah.
think it was actually the reason I think it was what kicked me off from that journey, the fitness journey, after seeing John Wick 2 in theaters. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a change, man. This is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
inspiration that I freaking needed to get back in shape. And boom. And it's yeah, dude. And even now, man, even the changes now with my life, man. It's like I'm completely sober.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
dude, I don't even really drink coffee anymore, man. I cut down to like hot tea, and I used to hate hot tea. I used to hate reading, bro. And now I can't start my day off without reading, and
Yeah.
it's a change that I fucking needed. But that's the thing, is like being aware of that and knowing the things that you need to do in your life to become better, to make yourself happier, that you need to make those changes, man,
Yeah.
regardless if it's a risk or if it's something that you're uncertain about. You got to take the leap.
Got to take the leap. Absolutely. It's crazy. I'm gonna save the Fort Wayne conversations till a little bit later in the pod, because I definitely have a lot of just questions about that, and I think it's great that you talk about just what led you to move, and just how to get in that, how you got to that point to where you're like, hey, I'm about to just take this next leap into my career. Which brings me to the point now of talking about the one and the only Jimmy Arcurio, because you mentioned him so far in the podcast, and that has been, I think, almost like another huge highlight. I would say, when I look at just like you and your career and Static Heart and everything, like I think Jimmy Arcurio has been the next big step, and I remember it was very inspiring to see, especially because it was created in the pandemic when everybody
Mm.
was sitting inside, and when it was just such a fucking there's nothing for anyone to do besides stay inside or go outside and get COVID, so you definitely you made your time with it. And hold up, let's stop, guys. This is the very first advertisement for the Excellent Podcast, and of course the very first ad I have to do on the pod it has to be my own company, right? It has to be. SW Films. On March 31st, 2023, guys, I launched my first ever website that I, the owner, the founder, the creator, the director, the producer, the screenwriter, STEFON WHITAKER, I created off of Squarespace. And I had an amazing time doing it, guys. www.swfilmsproduction.com is where you should be going if you are a business, a brand, an artist, a musician, anyone that is looking for video content to help push their business and brand for profit, visibility, and customer and interaction growth. You should be reaching out to my production company to create cinematic excellence. Of course, some people may ask, what is cinematic excellence? Guys, it's life, it's beauty, it's stretching of the soul, it's creating a soul, it's exploration, it's everything. It's everything that you can imagine from a feeling and sensation that you've ever experienced, that you've ever wanted to experience. That is, of course, cinematic excellence, all right? And I've been happy to be running my company for 5 years, and it's incredible to be able to have a website finally now to, to push the brand, to push the aesthetic, to push the message, to push the excellence much further. So once again, guys, if you guys are a business and brand, it's so important that you guys get a commercial, get some video content, because you want to grow your business. You want to be able to continue pushing and grow your profit and grow visibility overall to where you can be this small business to becoming a much larger business and just growing every single year. And of course, the way to do that is to start by having some really good content. And of course, at SW Films, we create video content. So make sure that if you are looking for video content in the market, whether you are in Northern California, Southern California, in the Midwest, places that I usually have visited, or wherever you are, feel free to please reach out to us. And of course, remember to go to www.swfilmsproduction.com so you can get your video today. And it's not just a regular video, guys. It is a production company. I like to not only just create an awesome end product for you guys, but I want the product that we are creating in real time, I want it to be enjoyable for you as well. It's an experience. It's about love. It's about learning. It's about lessons, and it's about blessings. So please reach out to me, www.swfilmsproduction.com, and let's create some cinematic excellence. All right. Back to the pod.
I want you to talk about how you created this character, what inspired you to create him, and just first of all, what was going through your mind at the start of this pandemic to just push you to create, because not everybody was able to do that, of course, during that time.
Well, the biggest thing is everyone was going crazy. You just got to direct that craziness into a good style of creativity. And that's exactly what spawned Jimmy Arcurio.
Yeah.
Dude, so it was more so, that was, of course, during that whole year, everyone was in a dark place. And me going through, I've suffered with depression all my life. I didn't want to really delve into that. And I know a lot of artists, especially after the pandemic, musicians and films alike, it was just like all the stuff that came out at me. I was like, man, this is like fucking sad. This is sad. And I was like, I don't want to do something that's sad or some horror movie that, it's the same pandemic horror movie. I'm gonna do something, lighten the mood a little bit. Let's do some comedy. And so at that point, we're on unemployment, getting paid more than my actual job to just sit at home and do nothing. And I was like, man, when the hell are we going to get this opportunity? Because it was an opportunity, to actually get paid to stay at home. I was like, I'm not going to waste this once in a lifetime chance. And so I was like, I'm just going to create. And at that point, I was like, okay, it started off as, I was like, it'd be cool to do, a guy from Chicago, he talks like this and he reviews all the good old craft beers that are on the market today. And that it was just, because, me, I love character acting. I love doing impersonations of shit and trying different things out in that voice acting realm. And the Chicago thing really stuck with me because of SNL superfan. The Bears, I got a piece of Polish sausage lodged in the lining of my heart, that was the shit that was sparked the inspiration. And I was like, oh, you know, I could easily do something that's me sitting on the couch and reviewing beer, which essentially it was just talking about the beer and how much I enjoyed the beer and being goofy about it. That's exactly what the whole premise was. There wasn't really anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I did one episode, then I got my buddy of mine who's my best friend, Ryan Castro. I was like, yo, dude, like, you know, because we were already hanging out all the time anyway. So I was like, bro, I was like, if you got COVID, I got COVID, man. Let's just have COVID together. Fuck it. And then and it was like, okay. So then like he was my only other person that came over and helped with the cameras. I had 2 cameras set up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, hey, let's just go to the store, get get a certain beer. Oh, that beer looks good. Look on the can looks cool. I can, you know, talk about that, whatever the hell. Or if I like the brewery or whatever the hell. In Austin, there's a shit ton of breweries. So there wasn't any, there wasn't any low quantity of that. So I was just like, hey, let me just create these little reviews. And then next thing you know, a few episodes in, I had another buddy of mine. I was like, hey, you know, he's a really, really talented cinematographer. He hit me up. He was like, hey, let me shoot this shit. Let's write some stuff. And I was like, cool. And then all of a sudden, from what turned into beer reviews, we started switching it over to like little skits and short films. And so then it eventually, you know, these little, you know, 3 to 6 minute episodes that were whatever. There's nothing that was along a storyline, even though we had like a subplot to the whole character, but every episode was different, had its own thing. We tried out different styles, different techniques. You know, we had a cooking show, we did a soap opera. Like we tried all these different things. That's not only, you know, helping us grow and challenge ourselves as filmmakers to try and emulate a lot of these different styles. But then it got to a certain point where we got to episode 12, and it was the big one. That was when it was like getting close to the end of 2020, leading into 2021. And you know, COVID obviously was still around, but like there was a lot of people wanted to create shit. And so I had a bunch of friends like, hey, let me be a part of this, let me be a part of this. And so we came up with this idea to create, me and Castro came up with this idea, like, dude, like, you know what's fun? Hopping on shopping carts and running down on the freaking down the parking lot with shopping carts, hopping on them and riding them like a freaking car. And I was like, you know what? That'd be a cool concept, like, you know, shopping cart racing. And that's what spawned the episode 12, which spawned the title later on, Rebel Without a Beer. And we created that, and it was such a weird idea, but it ended up working, you know, and it's a complete ripoff of, if you guess, Rebel Without a Cause and Formula One, F1, Drive to Survive, and Fast and the Furious, all that good shit. And then eventually it was like, okay, we never decided to put it in the film festivals. And later on, a year after the fact that we released it online, I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna put it in the film festivals to see what happens, you know. And then next thing you know, took it offline, put it into film festivals, and then, dude, it people seem to love it. And people, you know, we had a film festival run for it. Was it the last half of last year? And dude, we were all over the place, you know. We were even in Hobnobbing, bro, in Fort Wayne, which was, you know, I don't want to talk shit, but they never accepted any of my films until Jimmy. But you know, regardless of that, I didn't go because the same day Austin Under the Stars Film Festival was happening, and my buddy Ollie, that's his film festival. I was like, you know, I'm gonna go to this because it's in my new home, it's my new hometown, Austin, Texas. And I was like, I'm gonna go to this and check it out. And ended up winning Best Actor. We've won Best Actor awards for it. We've won Best Comedy, Best Film. Even we ended up creating a fucking music video. I created a hip hop song, Smoky Cold Pint Glass, stupid as hell, but it was fun as hell. We created a music video for that, put that into the film festivals, and all the festivals that essentially got accepted into it won, you know, funniest music video. I was like, okay. So people seem to love it, and I get people still ask me like, when's Jimmy coming back? And I was like, it'll be really weird if Jimmy comes back, especially since I've been sober for like 150 days now at this point. Break sobriety to be Jimmy Arcurio. Let's do it, you know. Like, fuck it. No. I'm working on different things at this point. But yeah, no, Jimmy was a treat, you know. And that was a bittersweet time. And honestly, man, sometimes I look back at that shit, man, and I miss it, bro. I miss all that free time we had. And it was like, yo, like you can literally create, it spawned so many different things. And just like the whole the digital era just thrived, and and e-commerce went fucking, it was big before, but it went insane during that time just because everyone's just, buying online. That's, it's all you could do. Everything else was closed. So it was an insane time, bro. But like, I feel like if you didn't take advantage of the time of that time, it's, you look back at it now, you might be regretting it because you're never, you're never going to get a time like that again. And it's like people living in fear, and I get it. It's a rational thing to fear about, But man, I didn't even fucking get COVID until 2-3 years later. Like, I got COVID at the beginning of last year, dude. Like 2022.
Knock on wood, I still have not gotten COVID. Shit, I got a whole bunch of COVID tests up here. I was like, the way I was feeling today, for the people who can't tell or can't see, Stefan is under the weather just a little bit. But sometimes I'm thinking like, damn, do I got COVID right now? But no,
The thing is, the more you think that you do have it, the more it's gonna fucking just manifest itself into you, bro.
Exactly. Man, well, first off, dude, that is fucking incredible. You spoke so much about that, and like, there's so like. It was inspiring because like there was a lot of the folks that I knew during that time, were either creating some things very, very quietly to themselves, or people were just like literally just trying to figure out how to survive, or people were literally just doing nothing with their time, or some people were essential workers, quote unquote, and still had to be out there and kind of be in the fray, be in this quote unquote dangerous environment at the time. And like, just seeing what you were doing was something super fucking like I said, just inspiring for, I know not just myself, but everyone else that I'm sure that and that has watched your content before. It was just so amazing for it. And it's crazy that you said like episode 12, because you had created it in 2020. And was it like you guys had written 12 episodes, or you guys were getting ready to film these? Because you had filmed a lot of stuff kept coming out. I remember all the different reviews, the different films, different like shorts, the music video, like all that stuff coming out and being in like working on that mainly in 2020. And then like, of course, The Rebel Without a Beer came online. I think, was it this year? I remember watching it.
Yeah, it came out, I think the February. It came out in February. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, wow, man, a lot of fucking work had to be put in to get all that going. Like, I even remember I remember you talking about some of the different opportunities that you wanted to try to put Jimmy in as well. There was the whole what's that show called, man, where they do the whole hot ones.
Yeah.
There was the whole conversation about that as well. And like
trying to get Sean Evans over here, like, bro, like, what else you got going on right now, bro?
Yeah, right.
Like, come on, dude. Like,
so that's just
it's especially him being from Chicago and shit. It's like, bro,
like, it's like, come on, bro. It's like, come meet Jimmy.
Come on.
That's dope, man. Like, I like specifically just in the moments that you mentioned, like putting it into film festivals, making the music videos, and then of course doing all the reviews. Like at first it just kind of started off with like reviews, right? Like was it ever going, did you think that was mainly what you wanted to do, just kind of keep creating the skits for Jimmy? Or at the time when you were kind of like fully developing the character, like when you got to a good point, did you know that you wanted to like make films and make, all this other type of content around this character?
It honestly started more so because also at that time I had like set up a schedule, like not only a content creation schedule, but I also create like a posting schedule and doing all the social media and all that shit for it. But like, it was like during that time I was like, all right, I'm creating these, these beer reviews with Jimmy, which is, very simple to do, like, hey, just grab a beer, sit down with it, drink it, make fun of it, or not even make fun of it, like literally talk about how you love it, and then make some jokes, crack some jokes. And then on top of that, I brought my music back into the picture and started like doing like these live performances. At the time I had a really nice 3-bedroom house that I was with my roommate with, and we had a big living room. And I literally set that up and like would record a bunch of different like live performances of me playing original songs, covers or whatever. And I would literally like, okay, let's release the music, the live music video here. Let's release Jimmy here. Let's do this, do that. And it was like, Jimmy originally was like just a piece of the content creation. It was never anything that I was expecting anything to come about it. I wasn't expecting us to get sponsored by all these breweries and them just giving us cases of free beer and shit.
Which is dope as hell too, right? Because you got a lot of different like brands like around Austin or just from other spots too, just saying like, hey, like please give us a review on our beer with Jimmy. Like, that's dope.
Yep.
That's
Dude,
really dope.
it was cool, man. I mean, like, so it never really had the idea. I never had the idea to create the short films because I mean, essentially, it was just me and my buddy, and um, until like another one of our friends who is like a cinematographer, a talented cinematographer who's got all the equipment, got all that good shit, was like, hey, let me shoot this stuff. Where I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. We got an extra hand to really create more interesting stuff. And then it was funny because it was like we moved away from the beer reviews, the beer review episodes, and got into these little skits. But then I was like, well, look, let's create more content for Jimmy. Let's do the beer reviews again, but call them beer minutes and have them be little shorter segmented videos that we can post. And just very irrelevant beer reviews. And then it's like, okay, let's, create little outtakes and create little songs around each of the episodes for extra content. All these different little things that just added up. And then we ended up doing the music video. That was just very random. One time, my buddy Ryland, I went over his studio, his little mini studio at his house, and I was like, hey, I got this beat, that I paid for. Let's, kind of, lay some vocals down on it. And dude just like completely just transformed it into something I was never going to expect to do on my own. And so, yeah. And then like, I think one of the last things we ended up doing, which we didn't really do too much, was we did the arts and crafts thing with Jimmy, with Cody Clouds. And that was a fun thing because it was, it was called arts and crafts. And it was like, hey, here's Jimmy talking about 3 different beers. And let's look at the artwork from the, can, with Cody being, a graphic design artist. And have him discuss the art in the can, and then I discussed, in comparison to what the beer tastes like and what it smells like.
And which is like super dope. Shout out Cody.
Dude,
that's super
absolutely.
dope. Yeah.
I still hit him up and send people his way any chance I get. But that was what we were doing with that. And then I had ideas to do like brewery tours, and of course, at that time, couldn't really do brewery tours because really breweries weren't really open. Like they were still selling beer. But they, it was like more of a pickup situation. They didn't have, the beer gardens or anything like that open. It was just coming,
I'm sure now that's
home.
changed. Now it's
now it's just like, hey, we got tables galore. We made this whole parking lot over here into a whole beer garden. Let's go over here and hang out and have live bands and all this function. I was like, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. So with all the stuff that was Jimmy, like, what was probably the biggest review that you did that kind of like you noticed like kind of blew up or it caused like maybe a lot of people to go try that beer, or maybe the people that sponsored you, it kind of caused them to get some sales? Like what was probably the biggest review that you remember?
That's a good question, man. I think one of the good connections I actually made from that is there's a brewery out of Fort Worth called Martin House Brewery, and they're the ones that they started doing the pickle beer, and they got all this like buffalo wing beer, all these weird fucking flavors of beer, right? And it's not the novelty of it, and they got regular beer and like different styles, of course. And I've never been to their actual brewery up in Fort Worth, but they I did like these little beer minute reviews on some of their beers. I think it was like a cookies and cream stout, which was like a freaking like 10 or 12% beer ABV. Jeez. And I was like, and I remember dude, so I did these little, and they because they're so goofy on their end too, in the best way possible. And once I would share them, I would tag, of course, do all the tags, do all the things, and mention the breweries and get them to promote. Some breweries, some breweries really didn't do too much promotion. They'll share it every now and then, but there was a few breweries that were really just like all about it. That's great. Martin House was one of them. They still hit me up like, hey, when are we getting Jimmy back? When are we gonna, Live Oak, they've been a huge support. Like we did a few different episodes with them. We did the cooking episode, which was essentially my Guy Fieri knockoff. And then so I mean there was, I don't know if there was anything that like helped sales by any means, more so than it just like the breweries, like some of the breweries in particular, like some of the ones I mentioned, absolutely loved it, loved the character, loved what we were doing, extremely supportive of it. I'd send them, like, hey, here's the clips. If you want to share it, they'd share it. They were just super fucking cool about it. And then it got to a certain point to where, I'd even go to some of the breweries later on and people would
Mhm.
recognize me as Jimmy. Dude, it's
That's
so funny. Even at the film festivals, bro, with Rebel Without a Beer, a couple years, essentially a year or two after we initially released Rebel Without a Beer
yeah.
online. It was so funny. People come up to me and like some of them, like they're like good friends now, but they came up to
Mhm.
me, they're like, dude, I thought your name was Jimmy the whole time. like, nah. And it's so funny because I'd be going to
Yeah.
breweries, like I said, and then people would say, oh, Jimmy. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
sure. Hey, here's a beer. I'm like, okay. They just started giving me free beer. It was
Yeah.
great. I was like, hey, like that was fun, dude. It was a good
Just
time,
start
bro.
talking like him too, and just yeah,
Dude, there was a
man.
couple times where we had like these little like some of the breweries would do have their like little anniversary things, and they'd have like a
Yeah.
little, a little party or whatever at their brewery, and I would show up as Jimmy. And
Yeah.
that was a big thing like I wanted to do was these brewery tours to go as Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I was even thinking, I was like, man, I could get hired to be a part of
Yeah.
beer festivals and shit as
Yeah.
Jimmy, as like the spokesperson for thing. We had so many different ideas. I had so many different things I wanted to do with Jimmy, but like of course during that time, 2020, couldn't really do any of that.
Yeah.
But and then it kind of got
Man,
to the point where I was just getting over it and I was ready to move on to something else.
which I want to talk about that, but before I do, I mean that's it just all dawns to me now as you're telling me all this, like this is really what a lot of those companies, the breweries especially, and like even these major brands, they need that kind of shit, right? Like when you think about and I'm sure for yourself and I know for myself, like especially when I'm working with like clients who are, commercial clients, advertisement stuff, like I'm always thinking about ways of like how they might want to market a certain product or a certain service, right? And I think for breweries, obviously it's a very niche product that they sell, and there's such a variety of all the niche products that they sell in beer and all those different kinds of, alcohol and just all the different kinds of, I don't even know, just formulas that they fucking make with the IPAs, the stouts, all this kind of different shit.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about it, it's like, yeah, these breweries really they kind of saw an opportunity because like you had created this character just up in your own time and your own, freedom and boredom and the pandemic. And it became like this thing to be like, this shit could really be beneficial and profitable for these breweries, you know what I mean? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's honestly think that's fucking like perfect. Like you really like
Dude, it's free
hit it
marketing
out of the
for them.
fucking park.
It was free marketing, bro. It's like all you had to do was
Crazy.
give us free beer, which is no skin off their backs. They're giving free
Yeah.
beer out anyways. It's like essentially free
Yeah.
beer. And then I was like, it was getting to a certain point where I wanted to, because we were getting hit up. We were starting to get hit up by breweries to, hey, we got this new beer coming out. You want to do this? And then I wanted to like, okay, well now I want to start making this profitable. you
Yeah.
know. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I started diving into that, and I'd be like, hey, yeah, this is what we can do. We have different tiers that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
for this amount, which I mean, it wasn't expensive, but I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
you'd spend more on a marketing campaign than you would, for us to create this fun shit that we would help essentially market and do our
Yeah.
social media for, which is, worth way more than what, we were initially offering to some of these breweries, and like be
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we have these different tiers. We can offer this for this price, or you can do, you can pay for the high price and we can have a whole fucking episode on it, create a whole storyline
Yeah.
revolved around the beer and the premise of the beer, and like
Mm-hmm.
all these different things. And it didn't work out as as well as I wanted it to, but
Mm-hmm.
and then at that point I was like, because it was
So
such a
yeah,
fun
let's
thing. Like I gotta make money somehow because we were all getting our jobs back and shit. I was like, I can't keep doing it. I
right.
don't have the time to do this anymore.
Yeah, I want to talk about it, man. And I know that because of course Road Without a Beer is out now. I'm gonna make sure to link that so people can check that out as well. But I remember there was a time, maybe I don't know if it was in 2020 or maybe like a little bit after that, but I remember there was a conversation that we had on the phone. And I remember you talking about maybe, at the time getting rid of Jimmy. And that was
Mhm.
before Rebel Without a Beer. That was before the music video. That was before some of those bigger moments and stuff that you had. Like, where was that point for you? What was that situation for you that you felt like you wanted to get rid of him early in the process? And of course, I want to get into just like you now being sober now and how that kind of plays a huge part of you, maybe moving on from Jimmy. Because of course, you know, Jimmy, like you said, a character it's a very character driven piece of content through all the stuff that you've done. It's a popular character, and like, of course, now you build a huge fan base around it too. You know, people are recognizing you and noticing who you are because of Jimmy. Like, what? First of all, just I guess to answer, I know I'm giving a whole bunch of fucking answers or questions, but like, what made you think about getting rid of him early in that process at that point?
I think it was just more so like, I think at that time, bro, like, as much as I was mentioning it before, trying not to let the depression take over again, of course it was hard at times, man. It was hard at times during that time. And I got to the point where I was like, what's the point? What's the point of all this shit? And of course, doubting myself, which some of us do at times. And, and it, a lot of times when I'm like reaching out to you or any of my other friends that I know will listen, a lot of that's, bro, is just like, yo, I need to vent. I want somebody to tell me like, yo, dude, like you that's stupid. Don't fucking, tell me like, yo, that's just the times talking, bro. Like, it's just, just get through this shit. Like, you enjoy it, everything's going to pay off at some point, just gonna be patient with it. And that's that was the key of it. Just trying to be patient with it and see where it can actually go. And then, yeah, until it got to a certain point. And I think that was a big thing, man. And like, once we ended up like after episode 12, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And of course, at that point, we had to go back to work. We had to go back to reality. And it just got to a certain point, like after a year or so had passed, and I'm like, you know what? I revisited. I was like, let's put it in the film festivals. And it's like, I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people too, is like, if because you work so long and so hard and put so much effort and energy into something that you initially love, you can grow to not hate it, but you grow burnt out. And it's like, man, it's like, I don't, I loved that character. And it was just, again, to a certain point, I was like, I don't want to fucking hate this character that I've created. I don't want to hate everything that, it involves, because I just, at that point, I was like, I'm ready to do something different. I'm ready to try something new. And I was just ready. It got to a certain point where I wanted something a little bit more challenging. And I feel like, if you take a step back from something, once you take that step back, give it some time to breathe. And then once you let that breathe, come back to it. And I guarantee you'll have so much energy to throw at it. You won't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing with Jimmy, was like, the more time I like just stepped away from it, more I saw, I was like, you know what, this is something that I love the shit out of. At least I can do is put in the film festival and see what happens. And of course, it got into so many more festivals and so many awards that I could ever imagine. And I'm super fucking grateful for that. And, of course, grateful for all the cast and crew a part of that, because obviously without any of them, Jimmy wouldn't be shit. So,
yeah.
So
with it, being done, would you say that Rebel Without a Beard, do you think that was like I guess a good finale for Jimmy, or do you at least maybe see something different that could that could give a finale?
I was kind of waiting for you to ask this, honestly, because I've like, when people started asking for like a sequel, like I've already, like, I haven't visited in a minute, but I did start writing a sequel to it, to where it's, and it was essentially something we had written a long time ago when we had our cinematographer, that was through all the thing. He was the director for Rebel, but he was the DP on all the other episodes. And he ended up moving to LA, but we had this whole fucking idea, because we had a whole subplot built up for Jimmy. And if you can see the subplot in episode 10, and then we had something for Rebel Without a Beer. Of course, we took it out because it makes no sense if you don't know the other part of it. But like, we had a whole like complete like action movie that we had wanted to make based around Jimmy. And I mean, I'd still be down to make it. I just, give me that money. Give me that money to make that, because it ain't gonna be cheap,
Yeah, I feel that. So I guess maybe there could be something in the future. Who knows? I feel like, I know you well. You're my homie. I feel like there might be a moment where you might want to might want to give back into it. Because who knows? I mean, I think just in general, especially since it went through the film festival circuit and you had a lot of success with that, who knows who could have seen it or who could see it, on YouTube now, or just look at all the different kinds of stuff that's been out there for Jimmy, that may want to really just get back into that, into the content and into like really make it almost like a franchise in a sense. But of course, it comes with the fact that your character, your likeness and everything, and the Chicago accent, like it's your character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously you said that now that you've been sober, first of all, how has that experience been, you being sober for, you said 150 days, and just also how did that sobriety really turn you to be like, you know what, yeah, now that I'm in this position, now that I'm at this place in my life, I don't think I want to go back into the characteristics of Jimmy, since Jimmy is obviously built off of the idea of like, testing out beers and shit.
Yeah, beer connoisseur.
Yeah.
Like honestly, when I decided to go, completely just cut out all alcohol, it was, more so not that I really, because I'm not one that likes to get drunk. I don't like the feeling of being hungover. I'm not saying I've never been. There's moments, there's of course times where I've, gotten drunk and hungover, but it was like I never liked that. I always, it was more of a social thing. And then it got to a certain point to where even though it was a social thing and I wasn't getting drunk, I'd still have this mind fog. I'd still have this, almost feeling like just constant fatigue, constant just drowsiness. And it was like, man, I know that if I, cutting out the alcohol is definitely going to help with this. And I wanted to, like I said, making all these different changes in my life, cutting out, the caffeine of coffee, drinking coffee right first thing in the morning, changing it to hot tea, doing all these different things to really just better myself, man, because it's like, I just don't need it. And the biggest thing that really stemmed from me stopping was like, essentially it was like, I'm going to stop drinking beer because I'm getting fat again. And I remember how I was when I was big, and I don't want to be that person ever again. And it was like, okay, I'm going to cut out drinking beer. And then it was like, okay, all right, now I'm only going to drink on the weekends. And then it was like, okay, now I'm only drinking during football on Sundays. And it's like, at this point, what's the fucking point? Like, just like, because it's like the
That's
less
funny.
that I was,
Yeah.
the more sporadic I was with my drinking, the more that it obviously wasn't going to help my system and my everything. It was just going to completely just throw everything off balance. I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to drink anymore. And it's been great. But now, the funny thing is, like, especially here in Austin, bro, like there's so many like non-alcoholic beers and shit now. And like, I don't,
everywhere
like,
now. Yeah. California
I'm sure
too. There's a lot of shit
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Dude, so it's like, I got some shit in my fridge right now, non-alcoholic beer. Every now and then, like I had one for dinner tonight, bro. Like it's just like every now and then I'll crack one of those things open because it's like, I like the taste of it. And it's people are like, oh, why don't you, you can, since they have all these non-alcoholic beers, why don't you do it with Jimmy? Why can't you? I was like, well, I mean, that's going to be tough to come by because not many breweries, especially here in Austin, are completely non-alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what's the point of that? So yeah, I decided to move on from that and move on to different things, bro.
Man. And I think hopefully that the fans, the people that, enjoy Jimmy content and know you and delve into like, the creator behind all this, like hopefully they would understand that, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a huge, like a huge sacrifice almost in a way that you have to make, but also of course, like you had mentioned, like, you wanted to move on to something new. And, obviously as creatives, whatever we're feeling at the time, we move and we kind of create how we're feeling, through whatever kind of situation it is. Like, I feel that like, definitely during, breakups and shit, I had different stories. And, for phase 1 of SW Films, like there's 2 scripts that have to deal a lot with me and my kind of personal life. But then this horror film that I told you I've been writing has really nothing to do about me. It's just something that I've just taken from other people's situations and all these different kinds of, inspirations of horror films and different kinds of stuff.
Let me ask you this, bro. So
yeah,
let me ask you this. going from all these films that are very personal to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is, how what's the differences that you see going into something that's really not too much relatable to you, but more so like, hey, taken from other people's experiences?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how's
I would
that? Like, what would you
say,
say?
it's interesting, right? Like, because I would say there's not that for me, there has not always been a lot of content that I've always made that has been catered towards around my specific, feelings and situations in life and experiences and stuff like that. Like No Sweat Pimp, of course, that was not a movie, that was an album. And,
Mhm.
that had to deal with a lot of different things, just having fun, but also just going through the different types of emotions and feelings I had at the time, and when I think about like projects that have nothing to do with me, or just, it's really that I have an interest, or at least I have I always like to look at some things that may not have to do with my specific kind of lifestyle or opinions, even, try to just read into that without with a non-judgmental mind, and write about certain things. Of course, this script, I can't really say it on here, but like, the horror film script, it doesn't have anything to do with me. I've never been in like the film. I don't want to give away what the film is about, because the film is let's just say the
This is my
film is
plan all
absolutely
along.
the film is absolutely fucking nuts. And what I've been writing, I've just been, at first I was taking it from an experience, or from some situations and some stories, and kind of conversations I've had with a few people about their personal relationships. And then I go back and look at horror films that are kind of inspired by the same thing. And then I look at the things that I've been really inspired by. I've been inspired a lot by some Godzilla shit recently. I've been inspired a lot by the creature feature stuff. I've been inspired by real traumatic kind of stories. And I've just been adding them to this film. I think for me, what the difference is, is just like how much pain you're willing to go through. Because I feel like the stuff that is heavily based in my own experience, there's a script that I'm writing where I'm actually going to act in it too. If people remember, whoever was there for the Black Rose Wanderers premiere, they might have remember I kind of hinted at this when I spoke. But there's a film that I've been writing, and it goes through this very surreal kind of situation that has to do with something that I actually went through, and it's supposed to be very funny. The scene in this particular film, but it was a very traumatic situation. Not very traumatic. I don't want to say it's not very traumatic, but it was traumatic for me in that moment. It was very embarrassing, an embarrassing moment that I had that was funny, but also deeply rooted in a traumatic situation. And I think for me, I just look at those situations now, and obviously it's therapeutic, right? Like, I'm sure that you've written so many things, and when you've written them out, it's just been a therapeutic situation, whether it's something that has to do with you and your, experience personally, or something that's maybe not in your experience. Like I said, what I'm writing is not really, there's a few little instances of things that I write in there that has to do with like the environment of where I grew up in Angola. And also maybe there's like little bit of things that I've, witnessed or went through that I might write a piece in, like the dialogue, or a certain kind of action in a scene. But the story overall has nothing to do with that I've been through. But still, that's been therapeutic. So really, I think the difference is, it's just how much more emotional payoff it ends up affecting me as the writer. But I feel like this is what I've been writing recently. This horror film has been super inspiring. I've been going fucking crazy, like I said, 100 pages deep, and I'm making all these different changes and adding stuff to it, because I actually really want to produce this film. It would be a feature, which is a little bit of a scary thing, and I want to talk about that with you too, in terms of just like the stuff that you've written, right? And I've a lot of your short films have been, what would you say the runtime has been for them? Around like maybe 20 some minutes. I know
I
one of the
mean,
movies was long. I think was it The Pieces We Have, or I'm trying to remember. I'm gonna
dude,
make
the
sure I get
longest
this
one
right.
we got is "And in a Moment," dude. That shit's like 42 minutes long. Dude,
It's a
it's
long
not
movie.
programmable in any sense. But surprisingly, I got into one festival, but I'm surprised I got into that. It's just way too fucking long.
Yeah, but I know that they say short films, like the longest a short film can be is like 45 minutes. I have heard of that on like
Yeah,
there's sources that
but
say that
you
online.
look at the programming for any film festival, bro. They ain't gonna accept anything for like that, dude.
Yeah.
The maximum, bro. Like if you go, you know, I was talking to King about it. He was saying, he said he was like, oh, he's like, I'm looking into it now. He's like, the good runtime for any short film is like 7-8 minutes. And
Yeah.
usually like a good
Yeah.
cutoff is like 15, you know, like that's like kind of
Yeah.
like the standard, but like, yeah, like 7-8 minutes, it makes it programmable because it's like, you know, you have something that's too long because we like, you know, we have From Here's long, freaking pieces we have, they're all like 30-35 minutes, which it's too long. It's too long to be programmable for any festival. Like they've
Yeah.
gotten into certain festivals, yeah, but like, a lot, you know, a lot of it's also, you know, it's not going to get into every festival because it's like, okay, we're accepting a film that's 35 minutes long, you know, into a 2-hour block, you know.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, okay, we're literally taking, you know, a quarter of the time frame of this block for one fucking film. You know, they're not going to do that. It's going to instantly, you know, get
Yeah.
rejected
Yeah.
regardless if it's a good film or not. It's just a lot of that is just the logistics that go into that. It's something really good to think about. Features obviously a different story because, you know, you go 60 minutes and over, you're looking at a feature. And then, you know, if you're looking at fucking 75-minute, you know, anything that's like under 90 minutes, bro, as a feature, you're still looking pretty good.
Yeah.
But as
Yeah.
a short dude, man, 42 minutes is way too fucking long, dude. Like,
Short films are hard to write, man. They're I've realized that.
they can be, but they also like honestly, I think I'm best at writing short form content and short films more than anything. Like, on the other hand, you got like Adam King over here, which I fucking love that dude. But like that dude's got proof of concepts with features written for these. I'm like, bro, I haven't even been able to finish writing a fucking feature yet, dude. You
Yeah.
have you have like 20 to 30 of them on the docket ready to fucking go whenever, you know, had them all these
Yeah.
screenwriting festivals and killing it. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know, which is it's interesting because the new web series that we're working on right now, the crazy thing is, man, is like I'm sitting here and having struggle writing a feature, but essentially I did it with this web series. So we created this 6-episode season comedy, and it's very stupid, a lot more raunchier than what Jimmy ever was, and a lot more gory. But so we wrote 6 episodes, each of them being like 15 pages each. With the 6th episode, the finale is like 30. And so altogether we're looking at like 119, 120 pages.
Oh, wow.
You know, like around there. So it's like at that point you know, we essentially created a feature, not really with the idea of creating a feature, but it's interesting because it's like, okay, we broke this into different episodes, right? Different segments, but still put together, it still follows the same storyline and it still all makes sense. So it's a different way. I guess that's maybe a good thing for any writers that are listening, screenwriters are listening, that are having trouble trying to write their first feature, is to just essentially make short segments, short films essentially out of this feature. That it's like, okay, what would be a good start to this episode, right? This 15 pages, this short film, and what would be a good ending to it, and what would be a good start for the second episode. And then once you put all that shit together, you create the transitions in between them to make sense, and boom, you got a fucking feature. You know, like you didn't even think about it. We didn't even think about it until after the fact. We're like, oh, we got these 6 episodes. We'll probably throw once we finish shooting them, we'll put the pilot out into the film festivals and see what comes from that. But then again, it's like, or we could also put this out as a feature if we really wanted to. So it's like there's different options to go through when it comes down to that. So it's interesting.
It's tough for me. It gets tough because it's like I kind of, so, you know, since I started phase 1, which I haven't delved so much into SW films just yet, but really it's just a certain section of films that I want to place in each different phase. And I have every single general log line for every single one of these movies that I have that I want to do, but most of them are short films. You know, like the script that I wrote, the horror film, like it was supposed to be a short film, but then I realized like everything I wanted to add into it was just way too much for a short film. So I was like, fuck it. I guess I'll just make this a feature, you know? And the thing is I've had one other feature script that I've had for a very long time written. I've had it written since I graduated from college, or actually right around the time that we first met. And you've actually read the script. You probably might know the one I'm talking about. I've had that script for a very long time, but I always said I wanted that to be my first feature that I would do, you know, but then I'm writing this other one and I'm writing it in terms like as I'm writing, I'm also in my producer brain thinking, okay, how much is this going to cost? Can we do this? Do we have the right location for this? Do we got, you know, all that kind of shit I'm thinking of. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, okay, that movie is a more easily it's easier to produce, you know, with the right amount of budget for it. But at the same time thinking like, do I want to make it a feature? Do I want this to be the first feature? Do I want So I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts within that, you know. And you're talking about, of course, you know, like web series and like, you know, TV show episodic type stuff. I've never. It's funny when I first ever had the love or interest of making films when I was like 8 years old. That was the mindset I was coming from. I was writing hella episodes, and they were like kind of like anime type, you know, stories I was writing, and it was all episodic stuff. But ever since I really got into the industry and really started writing stuff, I haven't written anything episodic since then. You know, I've never had a thought on a web series. I've had like an idea that kind of brewed in my mind maybe a couple of months ago, that I think would actually be really interesting. That kind of delves talking about like, you know, what it's like to be a Black woman in where I grew up at in Angola. I thought that would probably be a really cool web series thing type to do, but I haven't, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm not in that interest as of yet. For you with writing, since we're on the topic of writing and stuff, like what do you have like a process for your writing? Because I know for me, man, it would take me a long time to get through certain short films. Like even the short film that I just finished up, that has, you know, that deals with, you know, my situation a little bit with my character in that movie. Like it took me a while to actually finish the script, you know what I mean? And then this horror film that I'm writing, this feature, this shit is I've been blowing through this shit in a week, you know, and it's like there's weird bits of inspiration that will come to you, you know, during that process. What is that like for you when you're writing your stories?
Well, it's funny because like the new web series that we're working on, it essentially came down to that. It's like we have me and my homie that had the idea and wrote it together. He was if you watch Rebel Without a Beard, he's Ryan, which is his real name, his name in real life.
Okay, yeah.
Jimmy's right hand man. That's also my fucking best friend that I probably see and talk to more than anybody.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a fucking heavy bromance going on with that. But but like we got this one. We had all
Remember,
these
you're
ideas.
in Texas. Remember,
Hey,
you're
we
in
in
Texas.
Austin, bro. We in Austin. You know what I'm saying? That's that little blue dot in the red state. You know. So we had all these different ideas for. We had literally all the different outlines for each of the episodes, how we wanted to lay out, what was going to happen. But we had written the first script, and we're like, okay, the first episode for the first, the first script for the first episode, and we're like, okay, this is good, but like to me, it's also it gets to a certain point to where it's like, because I'm also acting in it with my homie, and it's like okay, I don't want to sit here and write while we're trying to idea, it's like it's more so kind of like wishing you had a situation where with SNL where it's like okay, you have these creators in one room and then you have the writers who are there taking the fucking notes and who are literally helping push the story along and filling in the holes and whatnot. And that's essentially what I was like, what? We need one of those SNL writers. Of course, we can't get an actual SNL writer, but I ended up getting in contact with our buddy Isaac, who's I met him at one of the film festivals. It was like a pre-launch party for one of the film festivals. And I met him there, and this kid is he's 20 years old, bro. Dude, he knows his shit and love the dude to death. One of my good friends now. And I hit him up. I was like, hey man, because he was pretty much telling me when I first met him, he's like, hey, yeah, I do, I write scripts left and right. I've been making it a goal of mine lately. I've been writing a script a day. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. And and like I'm just like, okay.
Damn.
I was like, okay, this guy likes to write. I was like, we need somebody who likes to write. Because like me
Yeah.
personally, I don't really like to write. Like I'm
Mm.
an idealist. I have the ideas, and I just need somebody to help fucking piece this shit together. And
Mhm.
so Isaac was that saving grace for us, to where we got in touch with him. We sat down with him like, hey, here's our outlines. Here's the first episode script that we have. Is there any other way you can help us? He loved the idea, and he's essentially one of the producers and directing some of the episodes now. But
Nice.
he was like, he loved the idea, and then literally he's like, yeah, he's like, I got a few other things I'm working on right now. He's like, I'll try to get to you by the I'll get you a redraft of the first script by the end of the week.
Mhm.
Literally the next day, he was like, hey, here's the redraft of the first script. And then
Wow.
within a week, with just the outline of the second episode, here's the second episode script. And then we're giving him notes along the way. He's making the changes. We'd get together and we discuss all the changes, and we go about that whole process to make it better, perfect it. And we did that for a few months, to where we finally solidified a 6-episode script. And then we got our buddy on board, which our buddy Sean, who's essentially, so it revolves around these 3 guys. I'm going to read you the fucking log line of it. Okay.
Yeah.
After knocking off the wrong guy, an egocentric crime boss and his overzealous Goombas find themselves thrown into more debt than they can possibly get out of. So it's essentially a
All right.
mafia satire film. Goodfellas meets
Yeah.
Eastbound and Down. It's going to be freaking ridiculous. We're getting the pieces all together. We're shooting the crowdfunding campaign video next month for it.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So the rest of the year is going to be, because it's going to be a hefty project. It's going to be high budget, and we're going to be doing all we can to this year to get the grants, get the funding that we need. And hopefully by next year we'll start shooting this bitch. But so the third guy of the 3 Goombas, it's me, my buddy Ryan, and then our buddy Sean, who played Emilio in Rebel Without a Beard, Jimmy's rival.
Okay, yeah.
So the chemistry between us 3, and we're all good buds. It clicks, and we're like, yo, essentially, let's be 3 friends in this, this satire, and it's gonna be fucking hilarious.
That's cool, man. That's what's up. I'm trying. This fucking sun is fucking my
Dude, I
damn
see you,
face
bro. You're
up.
over here fucking glowing and shit.
I know. I'm like, damn. All right, I gotta move this shit up a little bit more. Okay.
Well,
No,
you can't switch the blinds over the other way. What you doing?
I should, but this shit is hold on. Stay on the phone, everybody.
So as Stefan goes over to the blinds and he switches it the other way to get the light out of his eyes because it's blinding him, Taylor sits there in complete silence, not in complete silence because he's obviously talking to himself as Stefan goes off and does his thing. Now Stefan comes back to the mic, ready to talk more about whatever the hell comes to his mind next.
All right, so fuck, I forget. Oh yes. So that is dope. I like the idea of that web series, and that's gonna be hella cool. And especially you mentioned crowdfunding campaigns and like grants and shit. I haven't done a crowdfunding campaign in a very long time. The first time I did it was for my very first short film, How the Herd Caught the Dove, which basically doesn't, I want to say it doesn't exist anymore, but it's not online. I took that shit off a long time ago. But I mean, what is your thoughts on that? Do you think that shit still works for people to do crowdfunding campaigns? And like, I know I want to look into grants more too. I've never looked into any film grants. I do want to look at that.
Yeah, dude. No, I mean, I'm actually doing a hefty amount of research on it at the moment. Actually, I'm actually been reading a book all about crowdfunding and the best ways to do it. I've actually got some friends that are that have done crowdfunding recently, and actually one of my friends, they actually just had one that just ended, I think, yesterday. And then I was looking at their shit. I'm like, man, because it's been a minute since I've done any crowdfunding, Indiegogo, whatever the hell. Since I think the last time we did it was And in a Moment, which it wasn't a huge amount that we asked for, maybe a couple thousand, which we made that money. But like now it's like you got this thing, which is the 6-episode series or 6-episode season, which is going to cost more than a couple grand. We had this line producer we hit up a while back, and she's like, reading through the scripts, and then she ended up not having the time to really go fully invest in the project. She's like, I'll let you know right now, just as an estimate, you're looking at probably $300,000 to $400,000 for this project. I'm like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay. challenge accepted. We go, let's fucking do it. Let's get that money. So now I'm like trying to do everything I possibly can to make that shit happen. And a lot of that comes down to, you know, planning ahead. You know, I remember before I never did any of that. I never did any of the marketing. Of course, we did marketing during the campaign, but a lot of it comes down to getting your audience ahead of time, you know, months in advance before you even launch that shit. So that way you have your niche market that it's like, hey, I got who I want. I have my mailing list of people who are excited for this, who want to already donate when that shit drops, when that shit launches. And it's like, hey, I'm going to freaking, because it's like, you know, if your friends are your friends and your family's your family, they're probably going to fucking already, you know, pitch in.
Oh, for sure.
So you're not marketing, you're not marketing to them peeps. You're marketing to the people that don't know who the fuck you are. And you know, you got to make them believe in what you're doing and what your project is. So that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do right now. And we have a few different ideas. And with this web series, it's very meta. So we've already created a bunch of different social clips, and we're actually looking at going out into the real world and doing this whole like TikTok page for it and shit. And where it's just very, each of the characters have their own fucking thing, and we're going to really utilize that and really bring that into the real world and interview people and make it like a Billy on the street type fucking shit.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so stupid, but it's just like, yo, it's what's needed in today's society, because you got to build that fucking following.
Yeah.
If you don't have that following and you launch a campaign, who the fuck's gonna, you know, chip in? Nobody knows who the fuck you are. But if you already build that following, and that's a big thing we're trying to also do before we even even after we shoot everything, we have everything edited, before we even release it online, we have a whole thing that we want to do on marketing and getting that following before we even release that shit online. So once we release that pilot online, boom, we already have people that are like racking in the views. They know what's up. They've been waiting for this shit. We've been pitching into festivals. People have been at festivals. Like, oh, you want to see it? You got to come to the film festival to fucking see it. You know, it's a whole different thing, and it's a whole different thing than obviously what I was doing with Jimmy, because Jimmy it was an episodic thing, but it was more so each episode being its own thing. It didn't really follow one strict storyline throughout the whole thing. It was like, hey, this is what I'm doing for fun during the pandemic. Let me post an episode online, and people can watch it because everyone's consuming everything on Netflix and YouTube at the moment. So it's like, hey, you know, we're going to try something different now since we're back to reality. And it's like, okay, we got to have a more strategic plan to really get the outcome that we want out of this. So it's a lot of research, a lot of fucking work, dude, but that's what has to, you know, go into it, man. You got to go through them steps.
No, absolutely. That's dope. I mean, I know that there's one film besides the other feature I have, not the one that I'm writing now, but there's another horror film that I've also have in mind. I feel like that would be the movie I'd probably do a crowdfunding campaign for. I feel like my feature, I would want to do a crowdfunding campaign on that too, you know. But I would like to go the grant route too. Like, I would definitely like to find a grant that would, because I feel like for this movie I wouldn't need too much, you know. Luckily, horror films are like one of the more cheaper kind of, you know, films that you can make, and I feel like I wouldn't need too much. Maybe like, I say like 10 grand, which, you know, sounds like a lot, and it kind of is.
And the thing is with a horror film too, bro, is like, I mean, it's all one of the biggest grossing genres of film there is out there, regardless if it's, you know, not saying yours is gonna be shit, but regardless if it's
bad, literally,
if it's bad or not, people are gonna go see it because it's I want to be scared, I want to, you know, jump out of my seat and shit myself, you know.
Basically. And there's so many terrible fucking horror films nowadays too. I mean, some of them have been decent the last few years. Like, I love Barbarian. That's also another movie that
heavily about that.
Yeah, Barbarian is a film that's actually heavily also kind of inspired, takes a little bit of inspiration from the script that I'm writing right now. But I want to get into just like in terms of film festivals too, because we spoke about that, because you've had a lot of movies going to film festivals, and like you've had a lot of experience going into film festivals. And I remember the first actual film festival I've ever been to, and it's funny, I would argue to really say it's not even, I still haven't technically even been to a film festival, because the one that we went to, I forget the name of that one, but it was the one we did online, and
the
Hoosier
annual film festival.
Yeah, that was technically my first like ever one I went to, and it was online, you know, and I think that was in 2020, I believe, and that was the only I've never been to a film festival like in in person, going actually to the theaters. Like they actually just had the SF Film Festival. It's actually happening right now, and I never knew about it. There was a movie that got shot out here called Earth Mama, which is an A24 movie, and I knew a lot of people that worked on that, and that showed up at the film festival. I did go to a premiere of Blind Spotting season 2, which I worked on, which is not, of course, wasn't a film festival, but that was that was had its own separate film festival.
Yeah, I mean
or
that's still
separate
cool as
premiere.
shit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was super dope. Shout out to Rafa, David Diggs, everybody, the whole cast and crew. That fucking season is incredible. Blind Spotting, love it. But for you with the film festivals and everything, like how, because you found a lot of success from that, like, winning all these different awards, like how has that pushed your career, and how has that like pushed your morale as well, just into, going and doing these projects? Because, for me, and I told you this before, like, I had my premiere for Black Rose Wanders at the Cinema Center, and I only did make that premiere because I've never had anything in film festival. I tried to put my very first film into one, and I think it might have been the same thing. It might have been too long. It might have, who knows what the fuck the issue was. Same with Black Rose Wanders, which is, is like 22 minutes long. Didn't get into any film festival I put it in. So I just decided to say, fuck it, I'm just going to do my own premieres, which is something that I wouldn't mind keep doing, but I would just want, of course, I guess increase budgets and increase experience of it all. But yeah, how has it helped your career, and what has it done for your morale, just in terms of, the stuff that you create, and just knowing, I guess, knowing the outreach that your projects and that Static Art has?
If you can get anything out of a film festival, it's the networking.
Yeah.
100%, because all these, especially this past year, having Jimmy in multiple film festivals, and I try to make every one of them. Couldn't make the Portland one, didn't make the Hobnobbing one, but like everything that was in Texas, I made, and
it's great. Yeah,
the networking is insane, dude. Like, because you never know who you're gonna fucking meet. And like at that point you're developing the relationships, and I'm, very big on relationships, and that's how, I've been able to get all of my shit done, is just the collaboration, and my, this is all the friends that are involved to help make it happen. And I think that's the biggest takeaway you can get from any film festival. And then we got this, shout out to Justin over at ATX Short Film Showcase. He does this film showcase every month here in Austin. And we've had a couple projects, Jimmy being one of them, into that. And it's every month as he does 8 films. He shows 8 films, and they do like an audience choice, and they do like a best of at the end of the year, best of festival at the end of the year. But like, I've met so many different people at that, and it's monthly. So then there's so many new people that come into that, but I also see so many friendly faces that are, have become some of my good friends. And it's just like, that's the biggest thing you can take from any of that, dude. And it's like it's so funny, because it's like, yeah, you go there for the films, and like, yeah, I want to see the films because I want to see what these people are fucking worked on. But to me, the biggest thing that I love about that is the people that are there. I'd rather go outside of the venue and talk to some filmmakers that are a part of the festival than go and then sit in a fucking dark theater for hours and hours just watching films. Don't get me wrong, I love watching films. But man, I was like, I'm at a film festival, and I'm just watching films, and that's all I'm taking away from it. And I feel like I'm not doing it justice. At that point, I can literally be at home, and I can watch YouTube all day. I can watch Netflix all fucking day. If I'm at a film festival in front of a bunch of fucking talented filmmakers that are obviously here because their shit's fucking good, and it got picked to be in the same festival that my shit's at, it's like, I want to meet these people. And I've met so many amazing people along this festival journey, dude. And it's like, it's gotten to a certain point to where it's like, man, it's like, I love making films, but I even love just submitting to the festivals and getting into the festivals, so that way I can network with all these other people that are like-minded and that are along the same wavelength as I am. And that way I can sit there and I can watch their films. I can be like, oh man, and then I meet, I like, oh, the cinematography on that is fucking amazing, and then I meet the cinematographer, then we become fucking cool, right? And then we become friends. And the next thing you know, I have another buddy along my, my pool of talented folks, fucking people that are just like, hey, I got somebody who, who's down to work with me and shoot my shit, whenever I want to. Just the same as I want to go and help their shit. And that's how I love it. It's like, yo, like, I might not have all the fucking money in the world to pay these people as much as I'd love to. But it's like, yo, if I can make a collaboration, you work on my shit, I work on your shit, dude, let's fucking create art, dude. Let's create amazing pieces of fucking art that we can put into festivals and that we can put out to all these people and see the shit that we created, even though it's also the same thing that, hey, we fell in love with this festival circuit and we met here and now we're creating films together, and now it's just this cycle, putting it back into the film festival circuit, meeting more people. It's boom, 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 boom. It's this constant circle, dude, and it's great. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I could take from it. I mean, it's a long answer, but holy shit, that's the biggest thing I could take from it is the network.
And that's huge, man. You know, I think for me, like, I know Sundance, of course, happened. There was a bunch of Bay Area films that showed up in Sundance this year. I had a movie I worked on that went into Sundance, a movie called fuck, I'm feeling terrible for fucking forgetting it. The name of it. God damn it. I don't fucking remember. Oh, Shortcomings. It's called Shortcomings. It has Randall Park was the director. And acted in it at, I don't think he acted in it actually, but Randall Park was the director. People know Randall Park. He's in a couple Marvel films and some other really good movies. That was like a 2 or 3 day thing. That was really cool. But and I really wanted to go to Sundance just because there was going to be a lot of Bay Area folks there from all the different movies there, like Earth Mama, Fremont, a bunch of different movies that happened in the Bay, but never went because also Sundance is dumbass expensive and Utah is dumbass expensive to travel to at that time of year. But eventually, I need to start doing more of that. You know, there's of course more film festivals that happen out this way. I mean, even just going to like Hobnobbing, I've never been to Hobnobbing or anything like that, and to see what that is like in Fort Wayne.
Well, the thing is, bro, you look at, I mean, you can look on the other side of it though, man. Look at all the sets that you're being a part of and all the people that you're meeting on these sets. It's just, it's the same thing. It's the networking. You're gaining, even if you're going to the festivals, you're networking the film festivals. You're working on all these different, you know, high fucking tier sets where you're meeting all these new people. It's still networking.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So essentially you're still doing the same thing and it's just a different capacity.
Yeah. Different capacity, you know, and there's different kinds of stuff, you know, and I think eventually I'll be at some film festivals. You know, I don't really trip on it too much. You know, obviously I just decided to do my own because I was like, oh, Hobnobbing and all these other fucking places ain't gonna take my shit. I'm just gonna make my own little film festival. So I think that was just the best way to go about it. And it's cool that you talk about Austin film, like the Austin filmmaking community. You know, Austin, Texas has been like a huge like hub recently. I'm sure you know of that, like that so many people have moved there. Fucking, you know, Elon took Tesla over there and you know, Austin has become like another one of those new creative hubs. And I'm also sure that it's getting maybe like kind of packed at the moment right now, where it might seem like there's a shit ton of people being there.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, since you're living in California now, definitely don't move to Austin because everyone here that's in Austin, I will fucking hate you. That's not me because I'm not originally from Austin. I don't give a fuck what you do. I came here. I'm a transplant too. Like, you know, like
exactly.
No shit to fucking
too.
say. But like people, I mean, I'm telling you, man, so many Texans are like, man, fuck them California motherfuckers. You know,
yeah,
like,
for sure. They said that about anybody.
Whataburger all the way. Oh,
you know, so and it's funny, man, but it's great that it sounds like Austin has like a very cool and tight-knit community. Like that's how the Bay Area is. There's a very cool, tight-knit film community out here in the Bay. Like I work with majority of the same people all the time on different jobs. It's very rare that I'll work with people who I don't know, you know, and stuff like that. But with that community, and then of course, you know, compared to like Fort Wayne, this is where the Fort Wayne talk starts to happen. Obviously, you know, you talk about how you moved out of Fort Wayne. You grew up out there too, though, right? You were born in Fort Wayne, grew up out in Fort Wayne.
No, I was born in Florida, actually.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was born in Florida. I was only there for like a year of my young life, and then my parents moved my ass to Fort Wayne, and yeah, that's where I spent my whole fucking life. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, I know that obviously, like, you don't come back to Fort Wayne too often. I remember the last time that you were there that I remember, of course, was you came out to see my premiere and just came out to chill out for a little bit.
Which it was perfect timing because your premiere was there. It was also my niece's birthday. So I was like, boom.
Yeah.
Freaking killing two birds with one stone in this bitch.
Right. Like super, you know, like good timing. And I go back to Indiana fairly often. I try to go back to Indiana at least 3 times a year, to visit my mom and my brother and my niece, and also to just do some work out there if there's ever an opportunity. But with Fort Wayne and just the time that you spent growing up there, obviously you got into music there, you got into film there. And now you're in a whole different film community, which is, of course, much bigger than Fort Wayne's and probably Indiana's film community overall, just because Texas is a much larger state with much more resources for stuff like that. But what is your thoughts on the film community in Fort Wayne? Like what I know it's the magic question. I always ask everybody who I interview on here, I ask them, especially if they're from Fort Wayne or Angola or whatever, I always ask them on what is their thoughts on the community, because I ask that because I always have thoughts on the community, and I see where it's lagging, but also see where it's very where the pros are. There's pros and cons in every single spot. But what is your thoughts?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Fort Wayne was exactly what I needed it to be at that point in my life. I created so many amazing films. A lot of my films were shot in Fort Wayne. And I wouldn't obviously have met you, King, Nelson, Bryce, Sarver, all y'all amazing motherfuckers if I didn't live in Fort Wayne. So there's a lot of plus sides that I take from that. I don't want to sit here and shit on my hometown, because that's not what I want to do. There's a reason why I moved, is because, I do feel like Fort Wayne is, years behind in art and music when it comes to a lot of different things. And don't get me wrong either, man. There's a lot of my friends' bands are still making music out in Fort Wayne that are, dude, like, I'm still an emo kid at heart, bro. Like, some of my homies out there, we love you, and my new friends in Split Parasite out there fucking killing it with their music. And it's just like, it's the music, it's like there's so much talent, but I also feel like if you don't, what's the best way to put this? If you don't really strive for that and try not to get into this trap of settling down to where it becomes so comfortable, you're going to get sucked into this black hole to where it's like it becomes too comfortable to where, okay, I'm going to start, I'm not going to do music anymore. I'm not going to do film anymore, because it's like, I'm working this job. Why would I need anything else? Because it's paying the bills. It's doing this. It's like, that's something that I just never wanted to be a part of, no, I'm not trying to knock down anybody. That's what, that's what they probably did with their life, but that's just not what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to get the fuck out of Dodge, which is funny enough, because the street that I grew up on was called Dodge Avenue. So it was something that I really I needed a change of pace. I felt like I hit a ceiling, and when I was there, I don't know what it's like anymore, because I haven't lived there in 5-6 years now at this point. And it's like, I when I was living there, besides our team of people that we were all constantly making shit with, it seemed like everybody was kind of out for themselves. And that's not, I'm not a fan of that, because like I mentioned about the networking, I love meeting people. I love learning from people that are so much more talented than I am. I love learning from people, because everyone is their own person, and they have their own technique and skill set and their own experiences that they've dealt with. And everyone that I've met that I wanted to work with in Fort Wayne on the filmmaking side of things was, more so to themselves and very standoffish. And that was just, it was very, it was unfortunate, because it was like, it's like, I just want to create with y'all. I'm not sitting here trying to compete with y'all. What are we fucking competing for? Like, we're still creating shit that we want to create. What are we fucking competing for? Why can't we just create shit together? It was so fucking stupid. And I don't know what it's like now. I have nothing to really say too much about it, because I'm just not experiencing it right now. But that's what I was feeling during the time that I was living there.
For sure. And I agree with a lot of those sentiments too. I mean, Fort Wayne it's growing a lot as a city. It's getting at least it seems like it's getting a facelift in certain areas, in certain spots. But I agree too. I don't know too much about what's happening in the actual spaces now. I hear about it from the friends and that I have out there, and they'll let me know like what their thoughts are and what's really happening. And there's a filmmaker, a homie that I got. His name is Guy Mars. At least that's what his pen name I would assume that he goes by. I think his actual name is Guy. Shout out to Guy. But I remember he made a very really good post. And I don't know it off the top of my head, but it had a lot to do with just like a little bit of the criticism in the certain like pockets and communities in the creative space in Angola, or not in Angola, but in Fort Wayne. And it really hit perfectly in terms of just like the idea of this whole competitiveness and people staying to themselves and these certain, cliques that, don't really merge with each other and don't really even want to acknowledge people's existence or people's art or help on any of that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like it still might be that now. Like I know that Fort Wayne, in terms of the film community, because of course those are other different markets like photography and music and stuff like that. I think the film community, like I've always said, like, there's creatives out there, there's videographers out there, people are shooting different stuff. You have people shooting for different commercial companies and music videos in Fort Wayne. But other than that, it's not always super impactful, or it's just it's only sticks within that bubble within Fort Wayne. It doesn't go out too much further. I know that they shot a movie that has Haley Duff in it, I believe. I forget what the hell the name of that movie's called.
Shit.
Yeah, they shot a movie in Fort Wayne. I remember I was there actually when that happened because I remember I was filming a commercial and it was near the courthouse. I seen a couple like grip trucks outside of the courthouse, and I wanted to say they probably shot on the inside of it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting and cool to see in Fort Wayne. But once again, Indiana also doesn't have a whole lot of film incentives that really help or anything like that, and there's also a lot of just issues, I think, like you said, just the hierarchy of stuff. I don't know if you ever seen this post, and I want to see if I can try to find the post again, a link in the pod, but I apologize if I don't find it. But this post, they interviewed 3 different filmmakers who own production companies. And you could tell that they're obviously all from different sizes.
Is this in Indiana or is this all over the place?
This was in Fort Wayne specifically.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And they interviewed the dude who owns Punch, and then they interviewed the dude who owns Anchor Film. I think it's Anchor Films, and then they interviewed some other guy, and I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, he was a black dude too. I'm sorry, my bro. I don't remember your fucking name. But they interviewed 3 of them, and it had to do with a lot about talking about the community and the industry and stuff like that. And it was very interesting to hear everyone's differences of what they thought. And I don't remember any of the people's names, but I just remember the dude who owned Punch. He kind of had a very interesting sentiment on his thoughts of the community, and like his kind of thoughts were kind of, I guess, similar maybe to ours in a way, saying that there's not a lot of impactful shit that I guess is happening in terms of some of the like filmmakers, I guess, in some way back in Fort Wayne. His sentiment was very interesting. It sounded like it was the most realistic, and he wasn't trying to kiss ass. He wasn't trying to sugarcoat anything, and I thought that was very interesting. While the the guy who owns Anchor, and of course whoever the other guy was, they were a little bit more optimistic, in a sense. Punch kind of stood in the chair of being like, hey, we're the biggest production company in this fucking town, and we're the ones doing some big shit. And I just thought that was that kind of already, it kind of explained what the community is like in a very simple line. It's like you got some people who are doing top of the line shit, then you have everyone else who's still struggling or just still simply just creating for just the love and the fun of it. I don't really believe that there's a lot of people in that community that's making a lot of profitable shit in Fort Wayne. I would say that. I don't think there's a lot of profit, and I don't think that's the issue with Fort Wayne. They don't see the profit in a lot of these arts, and that's kind of the reasons why there hasn't been so much of the incentive given to a lot of stuff. Like imagine, I when I look at Fort Wayne, it's the second biggest city in Indiana. There is 1,000% so many opportunities for fucking movies and stories being shot in Fort Wayne. 1,000%, but for whatever reason, there just hasn't been that boom yet, and I think it will happen. I think you know, there's a lot of talented people that have opportunities to create some stuff. There's a company called Sun Space Studios. There's this guy named Ernesto who runs that. I remember talking to him long ass time ago. They seem to be doing a lot of good work. You know, I look at what Loft House and them what they do. I haven't seen anything from them recently, but you know, there's a few folks in there that make some good stuff. But in my time when we were both in Fort Wayne, I truly only believe that it like the only ones that would call filmmakers was like our group, you know, and that was kind of it. I didn't really know too many other people that was taking it, you know, as serious or maybe that wanted to take it as serious, you know, and I don't know. I'm sure you get the same. I'm sure you get the same sentiment too, like that sometimes people hate that you moved away. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there for me, I've gotten that sentiment that sometimes, like, especially from this podcast and other conversations I've had, some people will get the idea of like, okay, you moved to fucking California, you worked on this, that, and the third, and you might still have an opinion of back home. It's just like, oh, you're constantly shitting on your hometown, and I've had that for years. Even when I moved to fucking Florida for film school, it's just people always had that thought, and it's like I have these criticisms only because I want it to be better. And of course, I'm trying to actively get funds and plans together to help make it better. More specifically, Angola than Fort Wayne. And Fort Wayne is also home to me as well, since it's where I was born and there's a lot of family that I have there too. But at the end of the day, you know, it's Angola that I focus on more. But I definitely see Fort Wayne there being a lot of improvements that can happen. What the fuck those improvements can be, who the fuck knows? You know what I'm saying? How do you think Fort Wayne can improve, just in terms of like the film community? What do you think improvements could happen in the town, just in terms of like, you know, just giving more resources for creatives over there, for filmmakers over there? Like what kind of improvements do you think should and could happen?
Man, I don't think it's any of those things, honestly, bro. I mean, like we created the shit with, you know, little more, you know, more I guess less shit than they probably have now, because obviously it's you know, growing at a slow pace, but it's growing to a certain extent. So even then, like, dude, I think it's just, you know, if you want to create the shit, go and create it. Like, I don't know how many times, like, it felt almost too easy, dude, because it was just like as simple as asking, like, hey, can we shoot at your restaurant? Can we, you know, we hit up Bob Rowett's over at fucking Wood Nickel. Can we shoot at Wood Nickel? Homie's like, yeah, fucking sure, why not? You know, it's just like, dude, it was so easy. And you know, when you get to a certain point, like, you know, bigger cities where we're at now, where it's like a lot of these places need permits.
Yeah.
You know, you go to fucking Fort Wayne, no one's asking for a fucking permit. It's as simple as asking, hey, can we use your place to shoot? And it's either yes or no. You know, and it's like, and most of the time, you know, it's free, you know, like I don't remember any time that I've really had someone that was like, okay, yeah, but you know, it's going to cost this much. It's usually like, yeah, sure. Because when the fuck have they ever had a filmmaker come in there and say, hey, can we shoot a film in here?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we can have our establishment in a film. Yeah, let's fucking do it. You know what I'm saying? I just think honestly it relies on the mindset. You cut down the fucking egos. Too many people got too many fucking egos, and that's not just with Fort Wayne. That's with everywhere. You know, when you're clouded by your fucking ego, you're not gonna get shit done. You know, when you're sitting there and you want to like just close off everybody because you think you're the best, man, go fucking jump off a cliff, because that's bullshit. You know, like I'm so sick. I'm so sick of that shit, man. I'm so sick of these people that think that, you know, that they're owed something, man. Like, nah, you ain't owed shit. You know, go out there and fucking make the shit and be humble doing it. Stop fucking expecting that you deserve something. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
That's my 2 cents on that shit, dude.
Yeah, because I definitely believe that the resources and shit, more resources can help in terms of just like giving a little bit more opportunities. Like if I could imagine like a rental house being in Fort Wayne, which I don't think it would take a person like us, or maybe even a motherfucker like whoever people own Punch, to like.
I mean, Bryce is already essentially his own rental house.
Right, which is huge, right? And he's renting out a camera that like not a lot of people know about, but also he's renting out a camera that is just very fucking valuable for what the fuck it does. So I
Yep.
mean that's huge. But like just a normal rental house in terms of like, okay, there's a rental house out here in the Bay Area in Berkeley, and it's called Ranahan's, and that's pretty much where every production that happens out here they go to. They rent off like the different production cubes, whatever kind of shit the production needs in terms of like tables, chairs, walkies, all this type of shit. And like if I almost couldn't imagine Fort Wayne having something like that, but if it did, I think it would give a lot more opportunity, like at least a lot more opportunity for like bigger productions for these creators. Of course, come with a price, obviously, but
I mean, if you're talking like the bigger sets and shit like that, I mean, like, dude, like, even at this point, you can create anything, man. Like, you have a fucking iPhone, bro. You can go out and create something. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like, it's just like I just feel like, at this point, I just feel like people that I don't know if I can make this. I don't know. I feel like it's all excuses, dude. Like, I think it's just all it is.
It's excuses and the ego, and I think also too, you have and this goes. I'll say this right, and because I feel like for myself, with this platform, I should mention, my issues that I have with it. Obviously the whole Cinema Center thing that happened at my premiere was definitely something that put more of a sour taste in my mouth in terms of like the people that are maybe not within necessarily in the film community over there, but the people who quote unquote support it or have a connection to it. Just the fact of, I put so much money into that premiere, which I would say this, it was successful in the fact that I had the people that I really needed to be there to actually be there. Like my family, you showed up, a lot of my real close homies and stuff like that. My niece and Rose, my brother was there, like the people who I needed to be there were there. But in terms of just like the space that they would give me was a lot of some bullshit. You know what I mean? And like, I think, of course, the Cinema Center is probably it chimes itself on being a special piece for filmmakers and creatives and for people who have events and stuff like that. But I feel like for how they did me in that situation, paying all this money, not getting no money off, tickets or anything, and just like bitching about a little thing that I wanted to show, it kind of just showed me that, okay, this community does not really, they don't either know what the fuck they're doing, and they simply also don't really care maybe about wanting to expand it in any sort of way. So for me, I think that the community of like independent creators, like we were when we were out there actually just going and creating shit, I'll still come home and do my own fucking production and bring on people in the community. Like I've been like when I would go out there and do commercials and music videos, I would go out on the Facebook groups and just ask people like, hey, I have an open position for a PA, or I need a behind the scenes photographer, or whatever the fuck. I'm looking for people in those areas. I want to know more of who the fuck people are in the community, but in terms of like the folks that quote unquote have a little bit of prowess and a little bit of positioning of power and certain kind of stuff, there's I don't think those improvements, they that shit needs to get weeded the fuck out, because they really don't have as much power as they think. And that's coming from a motherfucker that's seen, the quote unquote Hollywood elite people and how dickish they can be, and the power that they have in certain shit. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that they can improve on. The Cinema Center definitely needs to get weeded the fuck out. I'm just gonna keep it real. They need to get weeded the fuck out.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, like regard, like I get where you're coming from, and what they did to you was shitty, especially when they're gonna sit there and tell you what you can and cannot show especially when you're forking out all that kind of money. It's like, yo, if I'm renting this bitch out, like I'm gonna show what the fuck I want to show.
Exactly.
Like, but then like it all comes down to, I mean, like it's a business. So I get it to a certain extent.
A nonprofit. A non-profit business. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, bro, like even then you can literally go to AMC or whatever the fuck and rent out a space and for a lot cheaper, or find a connection, or fucking find a white wall and projector and blast that shit on that,
Exactly. Yeah. There's definitely different approaches for these next few premieres, but outside of Fort Wayne, we'll just say best of luck. There's a lot of creators I'm sure that'll probably be listening from Fort Wayne, and of course, I would love to meet whoever it might be that wants to create something. I just think that when it comes to resources and it comes to the community, is just like build up folks that are as passionate as you and that want to create dope shit and that want to better the community. If it's not going to be the motherfuckers at the top, at least try to do the shit yourself. And that's how I look at it. If motherfuckers ain't gonna help you, you just gotta pull the shit on your own and make something way even better. The people, then the people up top will catch on. Before we get into my last question here, I wanna get your thoughts on, and I'm sure you may have heard a little bit about this. I have heard a little bit about it too, but there of course there's a writer's strike that I'm pretty sure is happening now. I think they just, most of the folks in that union, the Writers Guild, voted on the yes on the strike. So I want to talk about just like in your, I guess, how maybe have you seen, or how do you think that may affect Austin? Because I'm not sure too much about what kind of projects happen in Austin. I know it's a pretty popping spot. I'm sure there's a lot of commercial stuff that happens out there. There's probably some films that happen in Austin or outside of Austin, whatever, stuff like that. But in terms of like the community out there and the industry, like, I guess to kind of go into it more, what have you experienced from the Austin community that has been like a major step up compared to where you've been at before? Like you've been on projects where you've been a PA on like a certain size of production. Like what has that size difference in that community and just obviously the little bit more tight knit community? Like how is that? What has been the stuff that you've experienced from it? What are the things that you kind of like appreciate from that community?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was like you're saying, I was doing PA work on some commercial sets and stuff like that. And obviously, we're working like in Fort Wayne, there's not many, big commercial shoots that are like that or that you can easily be a part of. And of course, in the bigger cities like Austin, and San Fran and Oakland and all that, like you're getting more. Obviously, there's a lot more shit going on to where it's easier accessible to be a part of that kind of thing. So it was definitely cool to actually be a part of that, because it's like, I didn't have any experience on that kind of, set before. So it's really cool to even just be a part of it and seeing how that's run and, taking a lot from that, because it is a different world, especially when, you come from what we were doing in Fort Wayne. It was like, hey, we're making these small ass things with, a skeleton crew, and we're doing what we think is right. And we're doing what we feel is the best process to go about it. And then when you go to an actual film set, it's a completely different fucking world,
Very different. Yeah.
And it's a learning shift, but then again, it also it keeps going back to the work. It keeps going back to growth. You keep learning and learning, and you keep being a part of these different sets and these different tier sets. And the more that you learn, the more that it's just going to obviously make you a better filmmaker, and it's going to make you more experienced. And at that point, you just become, it's just the more knowledge, dude.
Yeah. And you figure out what you're more comfortable with too. Cause I honestly still to this day, I like working more skeleton crew type crews than even the big ones, man. Like when I worked on Matrix, that was the biggest crew I've ever fucking worked with. I mean, that was of course right before COVID, but I mean, bro, that's like fucking 300, 400 people cast and crew all together just in the city of San Francisco. And it's just like, this shit is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like I like working on smaller crews, at least when it comes to SW film stuff, like crews that can maybe reach up to like, maybe like around that 20 to 30. It all just, I guess it all kind of just depends, like more of the indie style crews, and maybe a little bit smaller than that I fuck with,
Well, yeah, it makes it more intimate, it makes it more personable, and it's at that point, like, you're saying you be around a set of 300, 400 people. There's no way in hell you're going to fucking meet all those people, and no way in hell you remember the names of all them motherfuckers. It's a job, and it's, and whether, regardless, obviously it's, created a lot of opportunities in what you're doing, and the more sets you get to be a part of and all these bigger sets, it's fantastic. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because it's like, it becomes, it's a job. It's helping pay the bills. It's helping, you to keep living life,
Yeah.
paying your bills and having a shelter over your head.
Right.
And then when you have your smaller stuff where essentially you're not making any money off of it, it becomes more, it's a passion project. So it becomes more personable, and you're actually working with people you want to work with and that and that you love. And it's a whole different experience, it's not a transaction at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. And that kind of goes back to the writer strike that I brought into this. Like, you say that you work, as a videographer with a company and stuff like that. And that's always been something, like as I've gone through my career, that was almost the path that I wanted to take. Of course, I wanted when I was living back home in Indiana, I wanted to try to find a company that was doing something like that. But unfortunately, there was no companies that I ever came across that did that. Or if there was companies, like I remember trying to reach out to Loft House, and they wanted to stay around their groups of people. So it was like, oh, can't get with them too. So I was like, fuck it, let me just continue doing freelance. How has working with an in-house company and doing stuff like that, like how has that given you time to just, of course, take care of your personal pursuits in life, and keeping up with bills, but how has that also, have you been able to find a good balance between working there and then also having time for your own stuff with Static Heart?
100%. Because I mean, most of the work that I do is remote. So I'm literally at fucking home most of the week.
Just editing and stuff.
Essentially just fucking editing. And then I'll go into the office about once a week to shoot content. And that's essentially what I fucking do every now and then.
Nice.
I'll go with, my boss, the CEO, I'll go with him and travel to certain events and shit around, the country that he wants me to help shoot, or, we'll shoot because he's got a podcast. So we'll shoot podcast episodes or just have some content for the social media, because I do all the social media as well. So it's definitely given me a lot of time to focus on my own shit, which is great. Even though the thing I do miss about the freelance hustle is, again, the networking and being around people that I enjoy being around, and meeting new people, and just not, it's not just me and my fucking cat all day, right? Like it's, it's
right.
me and I'm actually, and even with the company that I'm with now, I'm like the only, there's not really a creative team. It's just me. So I'm doing all the content, I'm doing all the social media, and it's like, and especially being a collaborative person, I like bouncing ideas off of somebody. And it's a little different now because we have a full-time marketing guy that me and him are really fucking cool, and we, can bounce off shit like that, and I can learn from him, he can learn from me. But then again, I'm used to, before it was just me doing everything, bro, and trying to figure out, all the social media algorithm.
A lot of in-house places, I feel like, kind of set it up like that, right? Like they usually just kind of want someone to encompass all those skills for some sort of, visual content. Like a lot of the places I'll see that have postings, they're like, hey, can you do After Effects? Can you do fucking Premiere? Can you do Final Cut? Can you do fucking Chat GPT? Can you do all this dumbass shit now?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit, man. Like, I was like, they want you to do every single thing so they don't have to.
How much will you pay me? $20 an hour? Nah, I'm good.
I'm just like, fuck. It's just like, it's ridiculous, and, this year specifically has been one of the slower years, not just for me, but for a lot of filmmakers out here. And I don't know what other communities are like, but like, in the Bay and even in LA, it's been very slow. And the fact of now that this writer strike is happening is going to be even fucking slower until Hollywood can make deals with the Writers Guild and, give them what they want. And of course, I'm not in any guild, I'm not in any union at all, but I definitely respect it because, working on these projects, you see how they fuck over people a lot. So I'm like, I'm absolutely with it. But I know that the Writers Guild, or that strike, is definitely holding out on a lot of work, but also with these commercials and stuff that happen, a lot of companies have been laying off tons of people, like the tech companies, Facebook, Apple, Google, all of them, they're all laying off shit tons of people. So they can't, move a budget over for anything in the marketing world for them. They have to cut down a lot of stuff. A lot of jobs have either been pushing their days or completely canceling their jobs altogether without a kill fee for the crew, which fucking sucks. So it ends up being a very slow, it has ended up being a very slow time in terms of work for me. I know, like, it's been like, just comparing, like, where at in this time of year compared to last year, the amount of jobs I had, and was much different. I was probably like double the amount, triple the amount that I had last year. Now it's like, okay, it's very slow. So now that comes to the point where it's like, okay, now I need to focus a little bit more on SW film so I can just, build clientele and start getting paid from that way. Cause I ultimately do get paid more when I do shit for SW films for clients, since I'm kind of doing the one man band, or at least I'm playing as a director, producer, editor for everything. And then it gets to time for me to start writing a bunch of shit, and stuff like that. And it'll be like gigs every now and again. And I thought about the in-house space, because at the end of the day, like, got to pay fucking bills. I ain't trying to join the rest of these motherfuckers out here on the streets, homeless and shit. So, I look at in-house jobs and I'm thinking, okay, well, the one thing that I love about freelance that I know I would not get at an in-house job, because it's technically, I mean, I don't know if it's like a 9 to 5 situation, but when you think about something that's where when an individual is in an infrastructure of a job, it's kind of set up like that, where it's an 8 to 10 hour situation, maybe, right? But like, I think about the freedom of being freelance, right? Is a big thing that I always appreciate. It's like, okay, I have the time and opportunity to go fly out to Indiana, to go visit my girlfriend down in LA, to go take a random vacation in Colorado or Hawaii or wherever the fuck I want to go, and to do work on SW film stuff. It's like, okay, I have the freedom of being freelance, but at in-house, unfortunately, I don't think there's all that much freedom unless you work with people who are just, who respect and understand your passions. And it sounds like, for you, I'm sure that the people that you work with know about all the stuff that you've done. Of course, you're working heavily on Jimmy Arcurio at the time. They're seeing all the stuff that you're creating, so they know, like, okay, this guy is not just built for just this job. Like, he has a bunch of other shit he's doing. And I think though, what you're doing as in-house is probably something that a lot of filmmakers, especially back home, right, in Fort Wayne, probably wish to have. They wish to have something a little bit more concrete, because I mean, shit, man, working back at home trying to do commercials and music videos, fucking, you make scraps, especially off music videos. Like, motherfuckers don't ever want to pay shit. So it's just like, it's just it's a tough go. But I think the idea, I think us as being filmmakers in general, like, it goes more to just being able to really express yourself, to really put out a therapy, like, to it's like therapy for you. It's like it's like a meditative situation for us as creatives, to put out all the stuff that we do. The money's not always the important thing, of course. Just in the society and the way that the world is, we got to have money to make to live and to be able to build up what we want to do. But at the end of the day, just creating in general is, just that's the important thing. And I'm glad that I can see that for yourself, as all the stuff that you've done and created, and of course all the dope shit that's coming. I guess that's the important part, is just to remember the purpose of why we do this motherfucking shit, and that leads me to my last question, one of the last questions at least, but one of the last main questions. What is next for Static Heart? What is next for Static Heart, but what is next for you in general as a person? Like, what goals are you trying to obtain or trying to check off? What stuff are you trying to accomplish? What new ventures are you trying to get into? Like, what's next for Taylor Fredricks?
Well, okay, for Static Heart, got the web series I was kind of mentioning earlier about. And then other than that, I'm actually shooting my next indie drama that I've written. That's near and dear to my heart. And I've actually got I'm gonna be starring in it, and then I got Adam King. He's gonna be flying out to Austin to direct it.
Oh, great. That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's gonna be, it's near and dear to my heart, and I spent a lot of time trying to perfect this 12-page script, and it's finally at a place where I'm extremely happy about it. It's probably gonna be really challenging for me because essentially it's very semi-autobiographical. So essentially I'm playing myself in it.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. But then other than that, I guess what's next for me, bro, is just keep keep creating shit, because everyone, it's so funny. I guess so many people, especially at film festivals, you get the random people that come up and be like, so what's the end goal? Like, what do you plan to do? Like, what's the end goal? And I'm like, like that's such a, I'm like, I'm just like making shit. Like, I don't like, I just like creating shit. But then like the more, like, honestly, like what I really would love to do with my life is like, it's the Sandler approach, bro. Like you sit here and that motherfucker's creating films regardless if it's shit or not, but he's creating films, something that he loves to do, and he's doing it with all of his friends.
Yeah.
That's something that I want to that's what I strive for, bro. Like if I can make a living creating films with my fucking friends, that's the fucking dream, dude. Like I don't
absolutely
like that's what I'm striving towards, man. Like everything else is a stepping stone, the day job's a stepping stone. Every project, it's like I'm excited for it, yeah, but they're all stepping stones because they're all just building up that portfolio to something greater.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm fucking excited for. It's like, regardless if it fucking flops or not, if it doesn't do well in festival or not, we still created something and we still had fun doing it and we learned a lot from it, or at least we plan to take a lot from it, right? And grow from it and just continue to get better and better and better and keep fucking hustling and to finally get to that fucking end goal to where it's like, hey, here, you got people throwing money at us. Hey, just create films, whatever you do, it's fucking, like, like that, that gets to that point, bro, where it's just like, yo, let me just create my own shit and do it with my fucking friends, make a, and just pay me to fucking do it. And I don't have to work any other fucking job. Again, and then it goes back to the COVID thing, right? I essentially got paid to sit at home, which I chose to create my own content. And I essentially got paid to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's where I'm at, homie. And then I guess other than that, musically, still fronting the Rage Against the Machine tribute. That's still going. Kind of slow this year. We got a couple more shows booked for this year. We'll see what happens after that. I'm kind of taking a break on that just so I can focus on the indie short and then the web series. So we'll see what the fuck's that. But yeah, that's where I'm at, bro.
Got a lot of stuff coming, man. A lot of stuff to accomplish, and if I know you're gonna accomplish all of it. So I'm excited to see
Thanks,
see how it all goes down, man. What advice, what motivational advice would you give to someone who was in your same position, someone who may have stumbled into film, someone who may have not had it as a plan A, but ultimately became to love it and wants to just put out their emotions on screen, want to just create characters that people can love and that people can relate to. What advice would you give to those folks?
Nike, just do it. And
Lord.
No, but it's true. Just fucking just do it. Just fucking, just stop making excuses. Stop sitting there. A lot of it has come down to, if I wouldn't have made the risks that I've made to essentially, I was doing music I was trying to make music a full-time thing for 14 years. As original musician, I was trying to do that for 14 years and then I gave up on it. And I moved into filmmaking. I gave up on something, but I moved into something that was still creative endeavor, and it was still scratching that creative itch where I felt like my heart was more into filmmaking than it was into music. And I feel like if people can just take what they love, and if you have a passion for it, go for it. Don't let anything hold you back. Stop making excuses. Well, my job, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I was working a fucking, 10 to 12 hour a day job, and I was still creating shit. I don't give a fuck what you have to fucking say. Make excuses. You keep making excuses, you're never going to get anything done, and then you're going to regret it. And so take the fucking risk. I literally moved to Austin. I had a van at the time. I loaded that shit up with all the shit, sold a lot of my shit, loaded that van up to the fucking brim. And drove 18 and a half hours down to Austin. Didn't have a job, didn't have a fucking house, didn't have a place to live yet. And I literally slept on friends' couches for about a month and a half before I finally got into a place, on my own with a roommate. And so I, just take the fucking risk. And then I eventually ended up getting a job. And then that led to my first corporate job. And then COVID hit and I lost, that job. And I was like, man, I'm never going to get a fucking another job like this again. And then boom, I started doing the freelancing and which led me to getting full time with the company that I'm with now. It's like, bro, it's all stepping stones. And the more that you could create those opportunities, the more that shit's going to fucking happen for you. So just fucking do it.
Just fucking do it.
Just do it, dude. Stop bullshitting. I hate that. I hate, well, if I did, what if, you're going to keep saying what if the rest of your life, you're never going to get anything done. What the fuck kind of point of life is that if you're just going to be unhappy for the rest of your life and not knowing what the fuck could have been? If I didn't put my whole heart and fucking time into this thing that I love so much, where could I be at this point? At this point, you're wasting time. You're wasting fucking time. And people, I got time. I'm still young. I was like, man, I've had so many fucking friends that were younger than me that fucking died on fucking accidents, car accidents, man. Freaking tragic shit happens, man. And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna look back at your life when that shit happens, and whatever the fuck you be, if you believe in heaven, hell, fucking reincarnated into a tree, whatever the fuck you believe into, you're gonna look at your life at that point once it's over and be like, shit, I could have done so much more. But I chose not to. I made excuses. I fucking decided to stay in this shitty job that made me fucking unhappy. I decided to fucking not continue being unhappy with my weight or whatever the fuck I am, instead of actually going to work out. It's like it's all stepping stones. Just take that first step, and I swear to God, that's going to be that momentum that you need to fucking keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. I hope everybody, I hope that the folks that need to hear that heard it and apply it to what they want to do in life, man. I think that's a beautiful message. Got to give it to them just like that. Man, Taylor Fredricks, Static Heart. Thank you so much, man, for being on this podcast, bro. It was great to have you on. Let them know about your social media so they can follow you, where to follow you at, check out your stuff.
Yeah, hit me up on I'm mostly on Instagram. I'll do the TikTok and shit too. I think it's just at Taylor Fredricks on TikTok, but I'm mostly on Instagram, at the real T Freddy. Yep. Facebook, all that shit. If you want to go to staticcarproductions.com, that'll lead you to our YouTube page. So the staticcarproductions.com, you see all of our films, music videos, all the shit that we've done. If you want to go to Jimmy Arcurio, ARCURIO.com, go there and you can see Rebel Without a Beer. You can see all the stupid shit that we did as Jimmy and the antics that we got into. And hit me up, follow me. You have anything you want to fucking discuss or have any questions on filmmaking or any of that shit, I might not know it all, but I might be able to offer some bits of helpful advice.
Absolutely. My man, Taylor Fredricks, here on the podcast, the excellent podcast. Thank you, brother, for being here. We appreciate you. And can't wait to see all the great stuff that happens for you in the future, bro.
Dude, I appreciate you having me on here. This is a long ass fucking almost 3 hours at this point. But hey, bro, I appreciate you, dude. It's always great talking to you, man. I love seeing that you're out there fucking killing it, man. It makes me happy, dude. So fucking kudos to you, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much, man. And thank you to everybody listening. Make sure to go follow the excellent podcast, SW Films. Follow me too, STEFON WHITAKER, if you'd like. And of course, remember, swfilmsproduction.com. Stay excellent. And we'll see y'all on the next one.